So the meeting will officially be called to order now, and we'll go ahead and we'll turn over to our superintendent.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. So I was trying to think about how I wanted to approach this week's report. There's so many phenomenal things going on throughout the school district that it was really pretty challenging to try to determine which events to include, and of course in the legislative session, which I'll highlight some of the probably more important happenings here as of the last couple of weeks. But first and foremost, I want to start with, we had some great Veterans Day celebrations last Friday across the district. We had events at almost all of our campuses, include Carnahan, Alley, Leon Springs. Ms. Freeman and I had the opportunity to visit Brandeis and complete student-led JROTC. We had about 80 veterans that we are able to recognize, and of course the Museum Association also. So again, thank you to all of our veterans, Bobby, David, again for your service, but this being obviously Military City, USA, we've got a lot of veterans, and it was great to celebrate with them. We had a phenomenal NEF Gala, so again, thank you to the trustees for celebrating with us last Wednesday at the Boeing Center. I think the NEF board has had the opportunity to start debriefing and have felt pretty positive. The fundraising effort raised more than in the past, so that was a positive. Like I say, they're looking at pros and cons. Of course, the Boeing Center was a new venue, and like I say, it was a pretty impressive event, to say the least. So more to come. Again, we want to just articulate our appreciation to not only the NEF board members, but the volunteers who were, in many cases, Northside ISD employees, and of course our staff, Kelly Rosti, Barry Perez. It was a pretty quick turnaround with this NEF Gala, and did a really phenomenal job. I'll switch over to Austin real quickly because as of, like I say, late, there have been some developments, and I'll come back. I've kind of learned here the last several weeks not to end a report on a legislative update. Now, indicative of what's happening, maybe, probably, there's probably a correlation, but first and foremost, you've seen Proposition 4, which was really not only the tax compression, but the big homestead exemption increase from $40,000 to $100,000 overwhelmingly passed. But then also, I will argue as important, if not more so, Proposition 9. And this was really the cost of living adjustment to those in the TRS annuity system. And so it was really good to see that our employees, particularly many who have been retired for some time, are going to see upwards of a 6% raise here in the near future. So it was great, like I say, to see overwhelming support for our retirees. You probably have heard House Bill 1 as well as House Bill 2 made it out of the House Select Committee. That those two bills have been scheduled to be heard on Friday. And I say that the two, they're really interconnected, and I'm not for certain that the public truly understands just how interconnected they are. House Bill 1 is, of course, the big school choice, includes a pretty hefty ESA that's categorized or tiered. It includes a school funding overhaul, as well as academic accountability reform. And so it's a 188-page, sometimes being referred to as an omnibus bill. It's intense. It's a large bill. The reason that House Bill 2 is interrelated or connected, even though it's not listed as a companion bill by definition, is what House Bill 2 does is it takes about $1.2 billion out of the funding formulas for school safety allotment needs. And so the rationale behind this, good or bad, was to free up additional funds within House Bill 1, i.e. funding formula funds, to allow for increases to include a teacher retention payment. There were several other provisions of fine arts allotment without having to bust the spending caps. The big concern was, at least on the House side, was how do we get more money infused into public education without having to go through the process of busting the spending caps, which probably would not occur. So House Bill 1, House Bill 2, works through the House Select Committee pretty well unscathed. I believe the final vote for House Bill 1 was a 10-4 vote in favor to move it along. And so that'll start to play out beginning on Friday. The Calendar Committee has since scheduled it to begin Friday morning. Consequently, Senate Bill 1 and Senate Bill 2 flew through the Senate. This is the counterpart that is much less attractive, at least for public education, that I think we will begin to see how consensus is built, if it's built, especially on the House side. And then, of course, conferees will start to be named and potentially a conference committee. I think House Bill 1 is going to be a really difficult piece of legislation to pass. And the reason I say that is because it is so complex, and there are so many already amendments being discussed, being attached to House Bill 1. I think it's going to be a really difficult piece of legislation to move. And House Bill 2, the big question is well, can it stand alone? Possibly, but I can say this with pretty good certainty. If House Bill 2, for some reason, doesn't gain traction or garner House member support, House Bill 1 is pretty well nullified because the funding piece in House Bill 1 falls apart. So I say this because I'm describing there's obviously a lot of moving parts. Here it is Friday prior to the week of Thanksgiving that is probably, I'll argue, one of the more critical junctures as far as floor debates that's going to be had. And of course, coincidentally, educators are all preparing for a Thanksgiving break. Interestingly, the Speaker called the House members back on Saturday, Veterans Day, at least when we recognize Veterans Day, and of course they didn't have a quorum. And so this begs to question, looking at it from a precedent standpoint, are there going to be, i.e., leading up to Thanksgiving, House members, even senators for that matter, if they're gavelled in, traveling with family, and do we start to run into this whole quorum issue, even as we go into next week and beyond? So I keep saying more to come, but there is likely going to be a whole lot more to come. We're going to obviously remain pretty actively engaged in this whole process. I do think there is going to be a lot of discussion. There's going to be, like I say, some decent amendments that are going to be proposed, and then a whole lot of other amendments. In fact, it's being projected that there will be well over 100 amendments attempted to be filed for House Bill 1. So House Bill 2 is pretty favorable, I believe, for the most part. But again, it's reliant very much so on, or House Bill 1 is reliant on House Bill 2. So, like I say, it should be an exciting end of the week, legislatively speaking. I want to brag on Hobby Middle School real quickly. They held a Red Ribbon Pep Rally and had the opportunity to attend, and this was at 7:40 in the morning. And I never thought I would see middle school students that were actually awake at 7:40, but so excited, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, our Clark high school athletes did a great job of supporting that event. We've had two pretty phenomenal 25th anniversary celebrations with O'Connor High School, and again, thank you, trustees, for supporting that event, as well as Connolly Middle School. Grant, I know that we were out at Connolly, and it was a great event. And of course, just mark your calendar that this Thursday at 6 p.m. We'll be having our third 25th anniversary at Carson Elementary School. Mary Hole Elementary brought back their Red Ribbon Parade. This was the first time, I believe, in 4 years, and so it was a lot of fun. The kids did a great job, and of course, Mary Hole. This was a point of pride. It's been several years since they've been able to host this event, and it was a lot of fun. I want to brag on Brandeis, again, bronze medalist with water polo. Had a pretty phenomenal season. Played the state champion. Came up a little bit short, but like I say, for the program to be as young as it is, did a pretty phenomenal job. And of course, Harlan High School will be playing for state championship beginning on Friday at the state tournament in Garland. It'll be at the Colwell Center, and they play at 7 o'clock on Friday. They defeated Dripping Springs, who was the defending 6A champion last year. So they actually beat them in 3 sets. They were third set they were down by 8 or 9 and had to come all the way back. So it was pretty impressive play. 6 football teams advanced to the playoffs. 3 advanced to the second round. So we will have Brennan and Harlan both playing Friday night. And of course, this is away. And then Jay also playing Saturday. So we wish them the best of luck. And if they win, they will come back the week of Thanksgiving, I believe that Friday. And actually, we've already got the Alamo Dome all squared away. So there may be 3 Northside ISD football teams playing at the Alamo Dome. Not this weekend, but following weekend. We're preparing to, again, launch our district-wide survey. We've been communicating with our staff as well as our parents and students. So when we come back for Thanksgiving, the student-staff survey will launch, and then we'll survey parents, community when we come back from Christmas break. We're trying to kind of spread them out just a little bit. And then, like I say, in preparation for the holiday season, we've got 3 big food banks scheduled out at Gus. So the 17th will be the first one, followed by December 1st and December 14th. And we want to make sure that we're, like I say, taking care of families, particularly in need right here around the holiday season. And with that being said, in preparation for Thanksgiving, which is really hard to believe, as we were discussing this morning in cabinet, it's just snuck up on us. We've got, I believe, a special video moment with Burke Elementary School and one of our STEM educators, STEM teachers, that truly is, humbly speaking, the definition of Thanksgiving. So with that, I'd like to turn your attention to the video moment.
7 years of teaching at Burke Elementary.
Ready for STEM.
And sometimes Julianne Arsuaga feels like she's just getting started.
So I want to tell you all about today's challenge. I love it. I'm so excited every single morning to get up and to come to school and to be at Burke. All right, start building.
In fact, there's not much that can pull her away from the kids she loves.
That's awesome.
Well, except maybe a friend in need.
I found out that a family friend of ours was going through kidney failure and they needed a transplant.
Things did not look good.
The wait list for them was about 7 to 8 years, and they didn't have that time. There you go.
For Julianne, the decision to help was easy.
Without hesitation, I just said, hey, let's try it. I think it's just something that you do. You got it? Yeah. Okay.
Julianne was nervous for sure, but not about what you might think.
It's funny, I'm not nervous about the surgery. I'm not nervous about anything but being away from school. I'm more nervous about the kids forgetting me.
It didn't come as a surprise to me that she wanted to do this. That's
School principal Dr. Marissa Pena says Julianne is well known for her kindness.
She's known to just go above and beyond for everybody, willing to do anything to help really anybody out.
Her friend wasn't able to talk with us on camera, but in a letter he expressed his gratitude. Your sacrifice will give me a second chance at life, he writes, and prolong my life, which will allow me to look forward to a brighter future. He goes on to say, words cannot express how thankful I am for God blessing me with a loving, caring individual like you, and for that I will forever be grateful. For Julianne, that's all the thanks she'll ever need.
Knowing that something like this, whether if it was a donation for me or from somebody else, would give him more years with his kids and his grandkids, then why not? I would want the same thing for my parents.
Like I say, I think that it's safe to say that is truly the definition of Thanksgiving and providing hope in others. Ms. Saldana reminded me, we had a really neat presentation, if I may, real quickly, at Leon Valley. We had a outdoor learning classroom donated, which was kind of an all-natural. It was really pretty neat. Preserved benches, and in fact, there was a whiteboard, or I guess I should say chalkboard. It was actually an old school, what I consider an old school chalkboard. But they wrote a grant, and the company its name is, I want to say it's Being in Stock. They won this grant, and so it's the first in Northside. But a really cool environment that also includes the planting of some trees. But we had the opportunity to attend the ribbon cutting, and it's really a pretty cool environment. So congratulations to Leon Valley. They did phenomenal work out there.
Thank you, Dr. Kraft. Nice video, without a doubt. The other thing I was going to say, just one update to what you stated, though. If I'm going to correct you a little bit, you said Harlan plays Friday, but then they also play Saturday, right? That's the one that really counts. So I wanted to throw that out there. All right.
Well, I don't know. It depends on how you define really counts, or at this juncture, I'm going to say that the Lady Hawks, they're a little bit closer to bringing home that state championship. So the stakes are pretty high.
Get both days. All right. All right. So now we'll go over to our trustee report. Trustee Lopez, our board reports. Trustee Lopez.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, I'm going to make mine real quick. Couple of things that I was able to participate in this past couple of weeks. But I do want to mention one thing that just occurred today. I'd like to thank Mr. Ortega and the Saul Ross community. The staff there, they provided 200 turkeys to their residents, and all that was a partnership with San Antonio Food Bank and, of course, their group, the Capital Group, that supports that community. I thought it was amazing. I didn't get to go, but they were a lot of happy faces and a lot of kids that were going to enjoy a good Thanksgiving meal this coming Thanksgiving. So want to give a shout out to them and thank them for doing that and taking care of the community. Also going along with the Saul Ross theme, I had a very interesting participation. I participated as a mentor. This was my first time mentoring a student. It was a 7th grader, and it was really interesting. I learned a lot, and I knew I broke some rules that I wasn't supposed to do, but I was just going in the flow. So it was a good interaction. The student is an avid student, so they come with some experience in learning how to communicate and talk to individuals, and so mine was a little shy. So I was really trying to pull some information out. Big family, enjoys menudo, and I was like, wow, I was hungry that day. But no, very interesting and a great conversation we had. And actually, he wanted to play outside, so you try to do the things that they like to do, right? And so we were outside throwing a football. The next, actually had 2 of them, 2 times that I met with him. Then the other time that I met with him, we were throwing a baseball. So it was really good, got to know each other. And I realized I can't throw that ball very far anymore. My arms were sore. So yeah, I don't have it anymore. So, but it was good. He was very gracious. He moved up, got a little closer, and I'll help you out. So I was like, thanks. So that was great. It was a great interaction, and I enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to that mentorship on Monday. So it's going to be every 2 weeks that I'm going to be mentoring. So I'm looking forward to that. Wanted to also let you guys know that I was just recently elected into the advisory board for the Texas Grandparents Raising Grandchildren. As you guys know, I've been actively involved with the organization and advocating for grandparents that are raising grandchildren or kinships, aunt and uncles that are raising their nieces and nephews. I've put together a backpack event through the help of a board here, the board, and allowing me to do that for the grandparents. So just wanted to share that with you guys. It's an honor to be on the board with Mercedes Bristol and the other members of the advisory board that all have the passion and have experience in raising their grandchildren. And that's been a big thing coming up lately. So just wanted to share that with you. We've been engaged. We're raising money for the cause because, as you know, some of the grandparents are on tight incomes and they're having to use their own finances to either get legal custody or to, be sustainable with food and things like that. So it's a challenge for them. So we're currently on a mission to raise money for that. So thought I'd just mention that. Wanted to mention too about the NEF Gala. It was awesome. It was great. It was great to see that. Kelly, she did a great job. All the NEF department, the partnerships did a great job. It was good to see a lot of our partners out there. And it was also very special for us as well, as our colleague Melissa Chumbly was a pillar of character. And so just to see her being honored, and wow, she looked amazing. She really did look amazing. Very beautiful. And so very impressed with the organizational part of NEF, and so proud of you guys, Kelly and your team. They did a great job. So thank you for that. And then, no, that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. Trustee Duran?
I want to welcome today to our board meeting Maria Evelyn Gomez, who's shadowing a school board meeting with a project called Nurses on Board. So welcome. Thank you for coming. And we have a lot of nurses that will be attending our board meetings this next few sessions. So it's very exciting for us. I want to give a shout out to one of our Marshall High School alum, Ernest Martinez, who is throwing our annual Thanksgiving in El Barrio this Saturday again in honor of his father, the late Jaime P. Martinez. So if you want to donate, we're still accepting donations for turkeys and being able to provide those meals for those that really need our support at this time. This week launched International Week in Higher Ed, and I just wanted to shout out all of the different cultures that we represent here at Northside and, in our city. The Dia de Muertos was also a memorable celebration where we remembered our belated and deceased loved ones on November 1st and 2nd, and that was a tradition that a lot of our schools have adopted. I want to thank Leon Valley Elementary School for welcoming me and Congressman Joaquin Castro and the mayor of Leon Valley for a Veterans Day ceremony. I was able to honor my belated adopted grandfather who passed away on October 20th, so it was very recent, and he was a World War II vet in the U.S. Navy, so rest in power, Tony Rodarte. And then yesterday was Diwali, so I want to say happy Diwali to everyone that celebrates that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Duran. Trustee Harrell?
Thank you, Bobby. Dr. Kraft already alluded to it, but the O'Connor 25th anniversary was phenomenal. I think the best part for me personally was I got to kind of deliver a co-speech with my daughter. And long before I ever wanted to be on the board or even thought about being on the board, she was an 8th grade student whose essay was chosen by the then acting school board as the namesake essay, and that's still part of our process. And so she actually got to hug on Sandra Day O'Connor, and then later on I had to do a conference about a year after that, and I took her with me, and so we got to go into her chambers and do the background scene with Sandra Day O'Connor. So it was real special. The stories were wonderful. But they had a former student, one of the first graduating class students speak. And I always love it when students come back and they share how their life was changed after being at one of our schools. So it couldn't have been better. It was really wonderful. I do want to also say thank you for Leon Springs for, I guess, one of the things that was so remarkable, and I guess it starts with the 10 Purple Star Award schools that we have, is that there's just such heart and recognition for the veterans, but also the military families. That's the way I grew up, and I think the families experience not the same experience as the veterans, of course, but it is a challenge. And when you move every 2 years, or your parents are deployed, or whatever, it's its own kind of stress and its own kind of at-riskness. But the neat thing was when I went back to Leon Springs, they had my father speak before. It was like the year before COVID, and he won the Purple Heart, and so but never talked about it. We kind of knew about it as a family, but he was talking to the children about reading, and books would take him places that the airplanes he flew never could, and that his favorite color was purple. And so that was really neat to go back and then relive those memories, but also celebrate the memories with the families that were there and the kids who were so proud to introduce their grandparent, their father, their mother. And it was a 2-hour event, but the kids all got to go up to the microphone. So that was just incredible. And then to be greeted by the watchdogs, or the watchdads. Watchdogs, which are really dads, right? Yeah. And it's an acronym, but anyway, it was like a whole row of gentlemen, right? Dogs, dads, what? Anyway, I felt very safe, but to say the least. There is a parade that John Jay's having Friday morning, so to send off the team, and so I'm going to go. I encourage y'all to go. Jay's like over the moon. I know we have Harlan and Brennan, but they've been there, right? They know Jay. It's been a long time, so Jay's like really pumped. So we'll see you there Friday morning. Oh, and I forgot to say I met Jessica's daughter at Leon Springs, and she's like the spitting image. Oh, my gosh. Such a confident, beautiful young lady, 5th grader, right? What time? I think it's 8. Is it 8:30?
8:30 is usually when the pep rallies are.
Yeah, and it's bad traffic going that way, so just leave early. Well, it's just San Antonio traffic. What do I mean, bad traffic? The other thing, and Gerald made me think about it, I know there's a couple other, maybe Corinne and Bobby, are you also mentoring at Insight? Yeah, so I broke some rules. We just, Felicity and I had the best time talking that I didn't hear the bell ring. And I don't know if she heard the bell ring, but we were still talking. And so we had to find someone to write a note so that she could go back to class with an excuse tardy. But mentoring just brings such joy to your heart. If I encourage everyone in the room, Insight, any of our schools would love you to read to them or to be with the kids. It just is a real bucket filler. And then I think that was it. But then I wanted to commend Janice and her folks. It was a really good academics meeting. I know it was Corinne and I encourage you all to go, because really to know and to be able to ask questions and to hear about all the great things that are going on in the classrooms and then what's coming, and it was just wonderful. So thanks, Janice, for always orchestrating great academics committee meetings, and then also for leading such a great department. So anyway, and NEF was fun. NEF was really good. The students blew me away. Oh my gosh, it's better than Yes, the lump in the throat was there for like an hour. There's no way to sing the Friends theme song without just like, oh my gosh. But they did it, and dancing to it was just beautiful, beautiful choreography, and kudos. The food was really good too. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Hall, and thank you, Trustee Hall, for not breaking all the rules and writing that tardy note yourself. But I know.
That's right.
All right, Trustee Freeman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Blunt. So apologies to my fellow board members. I was not here at the last board meeting and to my community, but many times as board members, we have a pretty hectic schedule, and sometimes our families don't. Sometimes there's some family functions that we miss, but I chose to point a personal privilege. My son competed or went to Sacramento to complete his purpose was to complete an Ironman, and he was a finisher in that. We went to support him, and that was just really exciting, and so I'm very proud of him. So he was Northside Athletics, so maybe some of his athletic ability has come from his participation in Northside. I will say the gala was just absolutely, it was over the top. I want to thank, again, I don't think we can thank our those people who contributed to the Neff Foundation enough. There was so much in the way of generosity there at the gala. I certainly appreciate all our partners do for the foundation. Regarding Veterans Day, all of our schools, I am so proud of all of them because I know that as trustees we're invited to several, and I went to one and somebody said, I bet you're doing this all day. Well, actually no, because a lot of them are held in the morning, so we have to pick and choose about, we can only manage to get to a couple. Brandeis, kid-driven, so many of the parents there that were recognized, and some of our staff who used to be in the military and no longer and currently work for Northside. So it was an opportunity to honor. And then we went to the Museum Association, and they had a guest speaker. And I'm hoping that we could maybe have that guy speak somewhere else. His name was, I've got it, Brad Weber, excuse me. He's a research volunteer for the Bastrop Historical Society as a volunteer, and he spoke about Camp Swift, the POW camp that was housed in the area of Bastrop. Just very, very interesting. I know that our kids would probably enjoy it, and I really appreciated him being there. And I think that's all I got, but it's been busy. We've had a lot on our schedule.
Good.
Thank you,
Trustee.
Mr. Blunt.
Thank you, Trustee Freeman. Trustee Salcido?
Yes, how you doing? Yeah, I was also at last meeting. I fell off a ladder, sprained my ankle, told me to keep it elevated, so that's where I was during the meeting with my foot up in the air, trying to get the swelling to go down. So I'm able to put my shoes on now. I'm able to still walk a little bit on it. I'm still limping a little bit, but I was able to make a Veterans Day meeting celebration up at Ed Cody Elementary this past Friday. The staff was phenomenal. They had good turnout. The kids for the choir were singing they did all the armed forces medley to all the different branches of the military. So that was awesome. Had a great time. Thank the staff at Ed Cody Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Salcido. Trustee Sadanya?
I think you all have said almost everything. There are just a couple of things. We did do student voice already this year. Our kids are just phenomenal. You've heard it so many times, but until you get to be around them and speak with them and let them give you their true feelings, they were wonderful. The Homes community is also, the AVIT program is having Thanksgiving baskets made for their community, and they're going to be delivering those on Thursday. But I really want to thank two groups. The first group is this board here, because I had the privilege, I cried a little bit because I couldn't go to the gala on Wednesday night because I was on my way to El Paso, but I am part of the leadership Texas Association of School Boards, and so that was our second session. We spent 3 days in Dallas in September, and then we spent 3 days in El Paso this past weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And thank you all for allowing me to represent you over there. I just was so amazed at the schools in El Paso. I got to visit 6 schools, the Canutillo School District and El Paso ISD. And we saw an elementary, a middle school, and a high school at each of those. And one is 50,000, the other one was 6,000. And the one with 6,000 was just incredible. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it because we all just came away from there. And granted, I am one of there are 33 of us that are in this leadership class, and I am the one in the largest school district. So when they're talking and they're presenting about their schools, there's so many things that they do with their limited resources. And then I think about us, and yes, we have limited resources, but we are such a blessed district. And that leads me into the second one. Thank you to all our parents who have been going to those football games, going to the volleyball games. We're down to 3 football teams and 1 volleyball team. But the parents are just as committed as their kids. The kids were working hard in August when it was so hot, but they kept doing it all the way to the end. Our band kids, our pep squad, the trainers, the coaches, but then the parents are there. And trust me, as a parent of 2 athletes, when they grow up, they're going to think back and remember and talk to you and tell you, remember when we did such and such, because they knew you were there. And so I thank all our Northside parents for supporting us and supporting your children and supporting somebody else's child, because I know that many times you're going to be the Uber for somebody else's children. But you know what? They're not going to forget. They will remember. So thank you all so much for what you do for us and for our district.
Good. Thank you, Trustee Sodine. And I just have a couple of items. First, thanks to Vail, I was invited to the faculty versus students volleyball game. You know, and I got some playing time. I never played volleyball really when I was growing up. So the approach that I used, I'm sure the coaches there did not approve, but I did play football, so I just did it like a chip drill every time it came my way. All right, so those that were receivers understand that part of it. Also, on Veterans Day, I was fortunate to be a guest speaker at Luna. Luna did something a little bit unique. Maybe some other schools do it too, but I hadn't seen this before. They had every single student line up in the hallway, and there was a large group of veterans there, and their parade is to have the veterans go by the hall and walk down the hallway and have the students cheering for them. It was simply amazing. The veterans were very appreciative. It's a little bit different approach. The other thing I learned is, man, that's a large school. When you're walking through with 1,200 or 1,200, 1,300, I don't remember how many kids are there. You realize how many kids are there, but that was a really great celebration. I did want to bring one other one up. And that's Kobe Glass and the celebration of their 42nd annual celebration for our law enforcement. It's called, I forgot, Officers in Blue, correct? Officers in Blue. But I've got to give Chief Carnes all the credit in the world. For us kids up here, us two, we hadn't been exposed to the magic coloring book. Maybe y'all have? Yeah. Y'all have? Okay. For those that haven't, Chief Carnes used that, and he just had those kids. It was just amazing, the reaction, how he did it, and how he had the kids blown away and everything else. So it was really something else and extremely enjoyable. Again, NEF, most of the words I'm going to say, I do want to, the pillars were really unique. I've got to say that. I know they are every year, but man, I really enjoyed listening and learning about who the pillars were this year, in addition to everything else we said. And the last one I have, today I attended about a 4-hour conference on artificial intelligence. And I bring it up because it was the best AI and education discussion I sat in where somebody actually could explain how AI worked. Literally, not technically and everything else, so that anybody could understand. And once you get an understanding of that, then you begin to say, oh, this is how I could use it or can't use it and everything else. So it was by the AI Institute. I was really blown away about how they did that. And they did ask me to message everybody here, so that's the reason why I'm bringing it up too. But the one challenge they did put out is for everybody, just play with it. No, they didn't say play, of course. They were technical people. Test, research, whatever they want to say. My word is play with it yourself. But I was really blown away by that. So I just wanted to bring that up, too. And that's all I have. Okay? So that completes our board reports. And now, this is a very important recognition of CPS Energy. We love when CPS Energy is here. So you all will find out why in a second.
So I'm going to allow Leroy San Miguel to do the honors, but we've got a special presentation this evening that I think U.S. trustees will absolutely appreciate. So, Leroy.
Thank you, sir. Tonight we have a presentation that will show our commitment, our district's commitment to save energy across the board. So you will know we're a very large school systems, and we drink up some energy from time to time, not only from athletics and those types of things, but also for real energy, so to speak. So before I begin, let me take an opportunity, if I may, to introduce a couple of people that I think are important to the success of these energy programs. And first, I'd like to thank and recognize Jacob Villarreal. He's our Executive Director of Construction Engineering, but he also has the privilege of overseeing energy programs. We have Mr. Mike Franco, who is our Energy Management Coordinator for the district. And we also have Ms. Tracy Avery, our Energy Manager Specialist. And I'll brag on Tracy for just a second, simply because she's been with us for quite a while. And, you know, we at Northside America have so many events. We have hundreds of these. And this lady, along with another gentleman we hired not long ago, have the pleasure of having to turn things on and turn things off. You could just imagine how many programs we have, and making sure that we don't use the energy when there's nobody in the building. So thanks to Tracy and to Mike and to the staff, they've done absolutely an amazing job and continue to do that. So let me get to the presentation, if I may. Northside has had a long partnership with CPS Energy that includes the implementation of several very important initiatives to curtail energy, such as equipment rebates and demand response programs. This evening, the district will be presented what I like to call the big check, and we have it here somewhere, right? Right there. Right. Don't mess with it. By CPS Energy for our efforts in energy management and for the district participation in the demand response program. Demand response is a voluntary program that not only helps the San Antonio electrical grid, but also helps our ERCOT electrical grid. That is the statewide grid. It is important to know that the district has participated in these programs for many years and has curtailed energy on a routine basis. For example, in 2022, the district was able to curtail energy by an average of 2,154 kilowatts from about 40 campuses that netted the district about $140,000. This summer, our region experienced higher than normal temperatures, which caused an excessive stress on the grid. And CPS has asked, has asked its demand response partners to go up and beyond the normal curtailment of times to help the grid. The district not only performed during these times, but those special days that needed us to curtail for longer, we tripled our average KW to do our part to conserve energy. This results in the district curtailing of an average of about 5 megawatts, earning a rebate. Tonight, we have Mr. Jonathan Tejerina, Vice President of Corporate Development, and Mr. Robert Olivares, our Key Account Manager, with us to present the check totaling $368,350.53 to Northside as a result of district participation in demand response and energy efficient programs. I would also like to, and I think we have the certificate somewhere, we'd also like to give you guys at CPS a certificate of appreciation for all you do in the partnerships that we have with Northside. So if I may, I could ask the board to come down and we could present the check, and then I'll ask Mr. Tejerina if he's got any remarks he may want to say.
Oh, I don't want to be on this side.
Thank you. The big tall guy.
There's a window. Oh, okay, there's a window.
Hey, Bobby, is that a mobile? Yeah.
Go ahead, let me get everybody set up.
Real quick.
So while we transition, I don't want to waste an opportunity to share my thanks as well. As Leroy mentioned, my name is Jonathan Tigrina. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Development for CPS Energy, and tonight is one of those rare occasions where I get to mix both professional with personal. So first, happy graduate of Marshall High School, go Rams. So glad to be back with you all this evening to talk about the programs. And then selfishly, my two siblings are employed by Northside Independent School District. And so it's a great opportunity when I get to leverage both those relationships to talk about a good cause. I think one of the themes that I've heard consistently being here this evening is this foundation around community. And at CPS Energy, we share the same mindset around our one team mindset. Your work this past summer, equivalent to 5 megawatts, it translates to powering about 1,000 homes during peak usage, right? So to really put that into context, it's 1,000 homes that are supplying our children, our families, our low to moderate income customers that are needing the most help. This district, along with others, are doing their part. And so on behalf of CPS Energy, our leadership team, my sincere thanks to you all for your leadership, your dedication, your volunteerism on this effort. And we look forward to continued collaboration and partnerships. So thank you.
Good. Good. All right. All right. And once again, CPS, thank one for sharing that with us, and thank you all for recognizing us in this mannerism. Thank you. Okay, so next we'll go ahead and we'll go to our Citizens Be Heard portion. And let me read the rules for addressing our board. So we believe Citizens Be Heard is important and meaningful, and we'll listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action. We ask you to address your remarks to the board. Confine your remarks to an NISD policy or practice. Limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And at 3 minutes, you'll be asked to wrap up your remarks. I think we'll have our clock up today, too. And we'll have so that'll help out with that timing part of it. And we'll have our board secretary, they'll be holding up the yellow card to give you the 1 minute time period. So you have there as well as on the screen, too, when we're ready for that part of it. And we're going to emphasize that I make personal attacks on individuals. And I think we have 3 tonight. And
yes, sir.
Let's go. Dr. Kraft.
Yep. First, we have Ashley O'Quinn.
Good evening. My name is Ashley O'Quinn. I'm a registered nurse with Northside, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the nursing staff. We are here to convey the detrimental impacts that the dissolution of our Northside clinic assistants will have on our district as a whole. By district, I mean parents, students, teachers, nursing staff, and other administrative staff. We understand the board and its administrators are faced with numerous financial decisions. We know clinic assistant positions are funded by the ESSER grant, which was only guaranteed through the end of this school year. We respectfully ask you, the board, to strongly consider utilizing other available funds to keep these positions. The American Academy of Pediatrics and National Association of School Nurses recommend a 750 student to 1 nurse ratio for delivering safe and effective nursing care. Currently, our middle and elementary schools are staffed with only 1 nurse. At the time of this address, 82% of Northside's middle schools do not adhere to the aforementioned recommended nurse-to-student ratio. The same is true for 16% of our elementary campuses. In addition, lower enrollment does not always correspond with fewer students seen in the clinic or lower acuity. Like any organization, proper staffing dictates the effectiveness of said organization. In this case, proper staffing coincides with our students' education and physical well-being. Northside serves many medically fragile students with complex medical needs who require daily nursing procedures which take a considerable amount of time, and these tasks cannot be delegated. In the absence of any student's private duty nurse, we assume full responsibility for the student's needs. These students are entitled to the same educational opportunities as other children, in addition to being entitled to safe and excellent nursing care. As more medically fragile students continue to enroll in our district and our community continues to grow, the nurses will need additional support to accommodate this growth. It's imperative to continue safe nursing practice and fulfill state-mandated requirements while simultaneously providing the additional specialized care these students need. My peers agree this level of responsibility is often too taxing for 1 nurse to manage alone. Student safety must remain a priority. As the demands of this job continue to increase, so should our level of support. The nursing staff require the same support as teachers who are provided with an instructional aid, as is the current practice in situations where there is a need. Our trained clinic assistants have an understanding of clinic dynamics, making them more proficient and qualified than traditional clinic backups. Our nurses can count on them to create the optimal continuity of care that the district expects. The nurse is the only staff member on campus who is skilled and legally qualified to handle certain emergent tasks. Thus, we need to be able to effectively secure reliable backup support. Nurses are often unable to take our mandatory lunch breaks due to clinic demands or because traditional backups are pulled for other tasks. Removing clinic assistants will inevitably result in increased turnover, and we will risk not delivering the standard of care that our students and staff expect and deserve. This will compound the problem as there will be fewer nurses to cover clinics, leaving more campuses without a nurse. This will compromise student care and safety and mental health, which the district cannot afford. We're asking you to allocate these resources not to make the nurses' lives easier, but to prioritize the health and safety of our Northside students. They are worth the investment. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you. And you all. Okay.
Next, we have Jamie Espada.
Don't start it yet. Okay.
Yeah, you ready? Mm-hmm.
I, insert name, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Office of School Board Trustee for Northside School District of the State of Texas, and this is the part that I like, will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Preserve, maintain in its original state or existing state, keep alive, keep safe from harm or injury, defend, keep secure from danger or against attack, protect, keep safe from danger. All of those that are in the oath for a school board member are to protect our children, right? Are to protect the community. Northside may not have a censure policy. However, there is a removal by petition and trial policy that can be implemented and done. And intoxication on or off duty is one of those removal reasons. Now, I understand we are innocent until proven guilty. However, when a breathalyzer and a blood test is refused, followed by hiring 2 prominent criminal defense attorneys, safe assumptions can be made. I just hope Dr. Duran is paying the lawyers with personal funds and not NISD taxpayers' money.
Okay, thank you.
Finally, we have Ms. Terry Zablocki.
Probably as a gentleman, I didn't mean to be. I'm waiting until I get the signal.
Oh, you're good. No, you can start. Yeah,
Oh, I'm allowed to start. Thank you. Good evening. And it was stunning to hear once again that you were at Leadership TASB. I'm here tonight with my TASB shirt on, and having taught in El Paso, I was familiar with, and forgive me if Canutillo. Canutillo and the celebration for law enforcement. I have my SAPD volunteer chain on again tonight. I'm here to say that absolutely Northside takes the leadership in every circumstance throughout the state. If I did a Google search today, and there were 1,130,000 results in 0.23 seconds, and guess what? Number 1 was Northside. Number 2, Harlandale. 3, Willis. 4, San Benito. 5, Brownsville. 6 was Canutillo. 7 was Laredo. And 8, DeRozit? Not heard of it. I also went back in terms of history and consulted, because last time I spoke about what happens if a student violates the student code of conduct for extracurricular activities with any kind of arrest or substance thing. And so I talked to one of the former board members whose picture hangs over there. He was a former SAPD officer. And I asked very specifically, hey, help me with this. How do we handle a circumstance that might come up, et cetera? And his suggestion was that there should be some type of legislation through TASB, through whatever circumstance you have, that if someone under a circumstance is arrested, there should be an immediate suspension from all trustee duties and circumstances until whatever is resigned. And if you do that, then you don't find yourself in the position that when you type in a certain topic, and I don't want to mention specific names, but if you type it in, I pass to the trustees the results of the first Google page. And it is disturbing, to say the least. So there are circumstances, yes, there is something that says a citizen can do the petition. From all the research I've seen, no one has ever successfully done that. What kind of person, anyone who runs for the board, you people are saints, give me a break, right? The last thing to expect is some some citizen is going to go ahead and take on a system where today we find out that I saw the terms special counsel and recusal, and I have no idea in terms of ABC and alcohol, blood content, et cetera. I don't want to go through that. Thank you very much. I hope we continue to actually do what we do traditionally, be number one, and take action so others don't face this. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And before next, so that completes our citizens to be heard. Yeah, since we have, I know some new attendees that haven't been here before, I'm just going to reiterate again, for citizens to be heard portion, the board can't discuss or talk about. We can just listen per se. But you know, Superintendent and others also here. I just want to make sure that y'all know that part too before we moved on. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay, so next we'll go ahead and we'll go to our consent agenda. Oh, I know what you're saying there. Oh, no, just Trustee Lopez a little bit more. He's very good, sympathetic. He said if y'all want to leave now, it would be up to you all. No, not required, but he's just, yeah.
You are more than welcome to stay.
That was good. You read it right.
We may be competing with Dancing with Stars tonight. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Trustee Harrell?
I was going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Is there any further discussion? All right, been moved and second that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Okay, great, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so next we'll go ahead to our next area. And that's going to be the administration, our safety audit report. Dr. Kraft.
I'll go ahead and turn this item directly over to Mr. Glendo. This is, like I said, I believe our annual safety audit report. He and Shane Allard will present.
Testing. Hello. Can you hear me?
I just had one comment about an agenda item on the consent. In the spirit of the check from CPS that we got, one of our line items was a change order, and just for our community's benefit, that change order benefits us to a credit of nearly $100,000. So I just wanted to point that out.
Good.
So that's another $100,000 to our benefit.
Good night. Thank you. That's a good night. And Trustee Harrell had one more comment?
Yeah, I forgot. Janice, if you could just remind the board what those two innovative courses are. They're really cool.
Yes, one is an innovative course at Hobby. So it's a pharmacy course that's going to be for those children who start the magnet school there. So we're super duper excited. The second is for ALE students, specifically at Marshall, and will be taught by a special ed teacher. And so we're excited about those opportunities.
All right, thank you all. So now we'll go ahead and.
Okay. I think my mic is on. Trustee Lopez, thank you for clearing the room, I guess. I still have a little bit of an audience, but anyhow, Mr. Blunt, Dr. Kraft, trustees, this is actually, and I'll begin. First of all, let me recognize our Safety and Security Officer, Mr. Shane Allard, is here, as well as somewhere here in the building is our Chief of Police, Charlie Carnes, and they, of course, are credited for doing all this work. This is actually not to be confused with the in the last year the exterior door audits that have been done by an exterior agency, if you will, Texas Safety Center. This is actually an internal audit that we've done. For those of you that are veterans, this is the third iteration, third version of this, and so it comes after, next slide actually, if we go, from legislation almost 10 years ago, Senate Bill 11. And so at that time, it was established that we needed to conduct this audit of all our buildings and then report every 3 years to you as a Board of Trustees, as well as establish a school safety committee, which we've done in this district for over a decade. So next slide. The requirements specifically state that after reporting it to you as a Board of Trustees, that we also send the results to the Texas School Safety Center, which we will do after tonight. So why do we do the survey? Well, first of all, to be in compliance with the law. We also, of course, more importantly, want to evaluate our level of preparedness in terms of any type of crisis that we have and the management plans that are in place. And the bottom line is that we overall are able to assess where we are with our response in the event of a crisis. I will interject here to also and say Shane and I are a little bit old-fashioned, so these slides are pretty wordy, but I'll try to go through them, not a lot of graphics. But anyhow, continuing. The development of the audit itself that we use, even though it's an internal audit, it was developed by the Texas School Safety Center, which involved police, fire, law enforcement, all sorts of first responders that when it was first developed, put it together. And again, the intent is to improve as a system in terms of reaction to a crisis, but we're not obligated to make changes. Next slide. So the scope of the audit, it is okay, Chris, this is a report that we present to you every 3 years. But it is a one-day, very thorough audit that our school safety officer, Mr. Shane Allard, goes out to the campus. He looks at the building, obviously, from an external perspective, internally, and then the campus safety plan and all the communication that goes along with that. And so, obviously, the purpose is to see what the strengths and the weaknesses are when he goes to every building, and, of course, primarily schools. Next slide. The point system, very simple. You want to get 4 points for every type of line item that we have. There's actually 308 questions or line items that he addresses in 16 different categories. That primarily is for high schools and middle schools. There's a few less in the elementary. But as far as points go, whatever the item is, the scoring, again, if everything as far as it being completely accurate is 4 points, and then 3 down to 0 if it's not applicable. Next slide there. So to give you an example, under one of the items in one category is all campus visitors must present a photo ID to obtain a visitor's pass. How do we get points there? If a school every single time does that, then you get the full 4 points. If some campuses only do it if you're there to pick up a student, then you go down to 3 points. If it's somewhat through there and you can work your way down, it becomes 2 or 1. And so obviously, again, that's just one example of how the points are assigned per item. Next item. So the results, and here you go. This is what, it comes down to as far as what the report card is, so to speak, that will go to the Texas School Safety Center. So for our elementary schools, you can see the breakdown there of the different categories, and it includes for elementary especially areas like playground and recreation areas that for obviously elementary, we want to make sure the equipment is safe for kids to play on, but you also have buses and parking and how that relates to safety, where it's located, monitoring and surveillance. We have cameras, we have proudly to say at our elementaries, so all of the cameras and the use of them all come into play there in terms of what Shane looks to when he goes out there. So you can see the vast majority of different categories, the gym, the cafeteria, all of them that are analyzed to some level in terms of safety and security. So that being said, you can see that the overall for 82 elementaries, this is broken down by elementary, middle, and high, the overall summary rating is a 94% for our elementary schools. Next slide. Looking at our middle schools, you'll see some changes here. And then again, when you get to middle and high, you have more of the items up to that 308 that I mentioned, because you'll see here that we include specialized areas and shops, gymnasiums and locker rooms, which obviously we don't have at the elementaries. And again, some of the other areas as well, that from access control, just mentioned, the plan itself, and everything in terms of even their website is analyzed in terms of what we look at in terms of safety and security. Their overall for our middle schools was a 96, okay? And then looking at our high schools, again, large buildings spread out in many cases. You can see there, again, similar to the middle schools, the breakdown that we have, the points assigned, and the overall for high schools this year looks like it's a 96. I'm not wearing my glasses. But at any rate, all in the 90s. Next slide. And then here again for you, and then for those of you that have been on the board for a while, you can see, and as we've done in the past, the previous 3-year score, if you will. So elementaries this year at 94, as I just mentioned. Last time they were at 95. Middles at 96, last time at 99. High schools 96, we're at 98. And the alternative schools at 90. So the overall is a 94. You might say, Ray, we're going in the wrong direction. Still, though, everything, and I remind you, that is in the 95 range is considered outstanding. So the fact, kind of like a letter grade in school, the fact that we have a 94 is a solid A, if you will. Why might we have gone down a little bit? I think it is because of our just added in terms of measures and how we look at things. And yeah, bottom line, just tightening procedures a little bit more and raising the level of a staff. We've, for example, ID badges at a high school is something we started this year. Exterior door audits that have started through a different initiative, I think plays into this as well as everything that we have, and we continuously, not a week or month certainly goes by where we don't get a request for access controls and doors and cameras and for our team to go out and look at them. And so, again, we think still a very good, solid 94 in terms of what the report is that's going to be sent to the state. Next slide. So some of our strengths, I think we continue to still have and maintain a high level of security. We added, as you know, as a Board of Trustees, a rotation to our elementary schools. Not only do they have a primary officer, they now have a secondary officer. We constantly are working on cameras. As some of you may know, the command center and the police department upgraded about 2,000 since the last time I brought you this report 3 years ago. Over 200 badge readers have been added, as I spoke to a little bit ago, and then cameras as well, as we constantly are repairing and replacing those and adding as necessary. So those, I think, are all strengths. We have also 14 non-instructional facilities. So what does that mean? Well, NAC, this building here, this complex that we're at right now, we've added cameras, access control, transportation, NLC. So there are a lot of buildings that aren't schools that we too also feel are important. They house our employees, and we want to make sure they're safe and secure. Next slide. We've also, as some of you now are on as trustees, the district level safety committee, which we've had for many years. We've expanded now to not just include parents, students, but trustees. We last month, I know Mr. Blunt asked me to speak a little bit about the standard response protocol. We have new language that we've implemented that I think makes us better. We've expanded also, and you're familiar, again, the veteran trustees of the active shooter video we put together pre-COVID and we continue to use. We've expanded that to elementary now, 4th through 12th grade, and continue to train and use that with our students and our staff in August when they return as part of our active shooter response, and ultimately the lockdown drill that we are now documenting and making sure that we practice at every one of our schools. Next slide. And so another strength, again, and in part thanks to you, all of our not just elementary schools have security lobbies, but 2 of our middle schools and 3 of our high schools. As new construction progresses, we're including that as part of the design. So probably one of the best things that I think you as a board have done is to approve of those funds to do those renovations and improvements at our schools with the security lobbies. We now have, I mentioned this in a previous meeting, panic buttons at all of our schools, albeit they're not in every classroom, but we do have them at every schools. This is the silent panic alert technology you may have heard in the summer that, again, we've already, I think we were a step ahead and have had in Northside for a number of years. And then finally, again, I think our leaders understand the importance, not only principals, but directors in their buildings as to what it is and what we need to do in terms of safety. We are piloting just new metal detectors and vape sensors. And so, as I mentioned, also we are now asking our high school students to wear their badges. And so, is everything great in Northside? As far as security, it's good, but we will never say that it is, and we're always going to look to improve. And so, we'll always have challenges. We'll continue, as I just mentioned, with the badges, which has been at some campuses a challenge, being honest, and we knew it would, and we'll continue to try all sorts of initiatives to make that a norm on our campuses as far as students wearing badges. But that will be a challenge we'll see in the future and continue to work with our students. Stop the Bleed has been mentioned in a couple of policies, but we feel that we have a number of staff, as you can see some numbers there, that are trained, and the materials needed at our buildings are there, and we'll continue to make that a focus. We will always, as far as I know, even as a teacher, continue to have at some of our schools traffic congestion that many times is an area that a bad guy can kind of focus in on. And so we're always monitoring how can we make that after school or that drop off in the morning traffic better. And so we have our PD always working with admin at a number of our campuses year round. Last slide. And so where do we go from here? As I mentioned already, we have several initiatives. We are piloting and this was initially in an elementary initiative or program, or app, I guess you should call it, and that's the Raptor system. Some of you that have gone to elementary schools may know we ask for an ID, we run it through a database. That now, at the request of some of our high school and middle school principals, is seen at some of our schools there. We've expanded the handheld radio. We went from the old walkie-talkie to more of what each of us carry, which looks like a cell phone, which is easier to communicate and has a lot more functionality than a walkie-talkie. But that now exists at all our campuses and will be moving to our departments as well. And then wrapping up here, our exterior door initiative is part of a grant. Again, some of you who may be involved with our policy and our safety committee have heard this initiative, which we started in August, and that is to secure every exterior door in Northside as best as possible with an alarm, an audible alarm. If the door is left open for more than 20, 30 seconds, we'll set the time. Also, standard numeration that's now required by law, where every first responder at every campus, not only in Northside but in Texas, will have to know what the door number is, and they will be able to identify what part of the building they're at. So that is another piece that we've already initiated. And finally, the third prong to these exterior doors and the securing of them is to, if there's a panel of glass on the door or glass around the door, we want to be able to reinforce it with some bullet-resistant film when appropriate. And so finally, last bullet there, we'll continue always, as we have both through ISMS, our administrators, law enforcement, continue to work with all our building leaders. Again, I just say not just principals, but directors, in looking and working and improving everything from fencing, badging, cameras, etc. So I went kind of fast through that. But we think we have a lot of good things in place, but still never enough, and we'll always work to improve. And so, as mentioned, there is no action to take on this. This is simply informational for you. Shane will report this to the Texas School Safety Center as required by law. And again, we'll be back in 3 years with a similar report like this. So I'll be happy to answer, or Shane will, any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Mr. Galindo, I appreciate that. We all do regarding continuous improvement. We're never going to be done with safety. We're always going to be talking about how to improve. I do have a question about the individual on the campuses, the different line items. I know we have a line item for cafeteria, we have a line item for gymnasium. What about libraries? And especially in our high schools. I mean, I look at libraries like cafeteria. People are going in and out all the time. Many of them have outdoor access because of just how we design the schools. Why is a library not a separate line item? And is it? I assume it's included with all the other interior. Part of the
Trustee
interior.
Freeman, that's based on a template that came out from the Texas School Safety Center. They recently just updated that, and what I could do is I can look at the update and see if it has that, but if not, we will add that.
Well, I just know that there's I know at the very beginning when we start talking about safeties, we start talking about challenges regarding access to libraries for our kids. And specifically, we have a high school that has a standalone, essentially a standalone library, and the doors are locked. And we need to do that. But there are challenges with that. So I would just like to be sure we're paying attention specifically to our libraries. And in the past, where we've had some challenges with safety in some of our schools across the nation, the libraries have become really a safe place for some kiddos. So I think that's another role that our library.
I have visited with multiple campuses. I know definitely Brandeis was one of them. How do I get the flow in? How do I get the kids in? Which rooms do we designate? The safety closets. That's the best thing about the libraries is they have all those closets behind solid core doors.
It's a very unique place.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
Trustee Lopez?
Thank you. Just want to say thank you to Shane, Chief, and Ray. You guys are doing an excellent job, and I think previous meetings before, I did attend an event in Austin having to do with the future of safety and security. Are we looking at, and I have a question. So are we looking at anything as far as advanced technology that we can use with our camera systems when it comes to safety? Because one of the things that I was looking at or that I recommended was AI. Do we have anything kind of like that looking up in the future? Are we looking at those type advanced systems?
I know some of our cameras do have, actually can detect motion.
Right.
We started fielding that at Maintenance North, where as soon as somebody's detected, actually you see a red box that goes around. If it will follow them around, it will alert the PD that, hey, during certain hours when this alert comes out, that we know that something's going on in that facility. I know we do have it in multiple campuses too, but I do not know because that's the ISMS department. I don't know exactly which ones.
Right.
We do have that technology already going on.
Okay. And is that only at specific campuses, or is that just at
Well, I definitely
or
know,
at certain facilities?
Facilities. I said when we had the issues with the catalytic converters getting stolen. and
Sure.
everything else, that's when they tested that.
Right.
And Maintenance North was one of the easiest ones that they were getting them out of. And so I know we fielded at that, but I believe some of our new cameras that we added to the high schools, the PTZs, the the pan tilt zoom cameras, which
Right.
zoom in. I believe they also have that technology also, where they can see, hey, there's movement coming in, or
Right.
possibly a license plate reader too.
Right,
So,
right.
also.
No, yeah, I think that's good too, because I think that's one of those things that we can help, try to anticipate, right? We're going to always try to do that. And so, yeah, I was just curious about that. And so thank you for that. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Shane and Ray. Thank you for that. I appreciate all the hard work that you all do. So
You got a question?
that was it. That was a question about the AI.
Point of clarification, I want to make sure we're talking the same language. When you articulated AI,
Yeah.
we're talking about the ability for a camera system to very quickly identify who this individual might be and whether there's a reason to further surveil this individual based upon the computing of a lot of data over a very like nanoseconds. To my knowledge, we don't have that technology incorporated.
Oh, okay.
I know Mr. Dufall was working on facial recognition.
Yeah. So the facial recognition
okay.
technology is really what you're describing.
Yeah,
So
and
the motion.
Not there yet. You're correct, Dr. Kraft. That's just
okay.
barely the start of looking into cameras. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think along with that, Dr. Kraft, is that there's also a system that would also help where our security or our police department is able to link up with some kind of system. I think that the law enforcement system to where they help identify. So it's one of those things that I'm not sure.
Yeah, Chief can talk a little bit more about the countywide cooperative we have with SAPD, Bexar County Sheriff's Department, and how they communicate. But like I said, when you said AI, I just wanted to make sure that we were not miscommunicating, that we're using AI cameras currently.
Correct.
To identify.
And the communication you referred to, Dr. Kraft, yes, we've had for a while P25, which we are able to communicate in a catastrophic situation with all agencies in the county, Bear County, fire, anyone, they all get on the same bandwidth, in my simple mind is what I refer to it as, to communicate.
Yeah. No, no, thank you. And sorry for the confusion. Didn't mean to do that. So, but yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you.
Trustee Rob?
Hey, sir, I just want to thank you because you did all of these audits by yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you
It's
for
over
that.
3 years.
He's got 3 years to do it, Dr. Vidal.
3 year period.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
My
'cause-
first year in 2014, I had to do it from March until get the report in by the end of August, so I did.
And I know that the laws and the requirements change and they evolve all the time with the safety requirements. I was my school safety officer, and I had to go through the Texas State Safety Center to get trained, which is a very extensive training. So I thank you and all the officers that help us as school leaders to be able to keep our students safe and our families safe. And that P25 system is life-changing because if there's an issue that's happening in the community, we are automatically connected to all law enforcement, and we're able to move quickly through reporting systems that help us identify potential threats in our schools. So thank you for that. My concern was looking at the alternative high school 90 percentage. That was our lowest score. That was holding us, kind of pulling us back a little bit. What could we have done differently at our alternative school campuses to help us raise that score?
Based on where they're located and not just being in one modernized building, that's an issue we have with especially our alternative high school where we have a bunch of portables. I mean, getting those into maybe a one building kind of facility would make it a lot safer for them. But we're doing the best we can. We've locked down as many doors as possible, more control of the teachers and staff being out during transfer periods and everything else.
Because they have to move from building to building. Yeah, like homes. That's similar to kind of like our home setup. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
A couple things. I know when we met with the students at the Student Voice Luncheon, they shared some things about badges and some other things. Has that been communicated to them? So the students had some real important things to say about school safety.
So actually, that's going to be one of the survey questions that we're going to survey all of our students. We haven't had the opportunity to debrief with Shane individually, but just the proximity of doors and access to doors, particularly where campuses are not within a common envelope, and just the flow of foot traffic. But we definitely will.
Badge checking.
Yeah.
Really, those kind of things. So real quick question. So I know that there's going to be hopefully some money in HB 1 or 2 for more funding of school safety, right? And
Quite a bit more.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed
Right.
that would be one of the benefits of having to give up some things for vouchers, I guess, or whatever. But if have we had discussions of like if we had the ideal, what would that cost? And you don't have to answer me now, but if we had everything we needed, what would that look like? What would it cost? Because dreaming big and looking for grants and things like that. So I know it's like, it's just me, right? And so I'm just thinking that out loud. The third thing is, and it happened to me, and it was a real eye-opening experience. So I was teaching a class the other day, and some students from one of our high schools came to do a college tour, and my room is not safe at all. It's got all windows. It has a door that opens and doesn't lock, and people can come in. My front door the classroom doesn't lock, and this is at UTSA, and there's not a lot of safety things in place right now. It made me think, is there anything that when we take our kids out of our buildings, off of our properties, in place with the teachers or the chaperones to, I guess, help them understand that safety could be not there anywhere else, or it could be something that we need to talk to students about or to see ahead of time in case something does happen. Again, it just was an awareness that I had today, like the kids are in my room and they're not even safe.
Yeah, so that would be with the active shooter video, with the run, hide, fight concept of always being situational. Where are you at? Where's the easiest place for you to get out of? Or where's the where's the best place to hide? So you run, you hide, or you fight. So, I mean, it's that situational awareness. And I work with UTSA, their police department, and some of their threat managers and talking about that stuff. And I actually assist with a class there. Next week, I'll be up there with the special ed teachers.
I just think it was a reminder to me that I saw that movie a few years ago. I've seen it several times. But do we say that to our kids to kind of till the soil? Like, are you always aware? Because I think our awareness goes down. Like, I really wasn't even thinking that till the kids came in my room, and I thought, oh my God, you know, I've got adults in front of me, but I've got little guys coming in, and I don't know that, you know, I could have stopped and said, let's review that. But,
Well, we do
you know.
drills in schools, and those are hard because they are. I mean, especially after Uvalde, it was hard for teachers to even do the drills because it was just a reminder of the possibilities. But the drills help schools be able to prepare. As much
exactly.
As they can. And that's all we can do. I mean,
No, and I get our schools are doing it because my grandkids tell me that all the time. It's when they go out of our district and out of our school into an unfamiliar area, are they really aware? So it's just, again, it was just something to think about, and I'm not expecting an answer, but anyway, we'll get there. Thanks.
Okay, and I just had one on the, I got an email earlier, and you rang a bell. I'm gonna go a different direction with on the safety, on the traffic congestion, which I hadn't thought about in terms of safe and secure. So I'm glad you addressed that. But I was gonna make one other suggestion of something we've sort of done in the past. Is we've used the board to leverage meetings with the city primarily, not as much the county, for where we need funding and other things done. So I'll give you an example. All right, for safe, for example, like our school markings, the signs, what do you call it?
The marquees?
No, not the marquees. No, our school zone markings.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we ever got that ironed out, to be honest, but where that occurs is because the city, and you know, that's a mixture of who actually controls that part of it. So at one time, we're really trying to push or advocate that from a safety sense on where those school zone markings are, and pushing the city to, if am I correct, right? Am I correct? It's the city?
The county, sir.
The county, depending where you're at.
So Director Jacob Villarreal, he's our point of contact for the county, and the county's always giving us pushback.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're probably talking
You got
about
it.
Leak Elementary.
Yeah, not just-
they'll give us a price, say it's like, okay, give us $100,000, and then we'll put it up there. And it's like,
But you may want, what I was talking about is that, you know, I'm with you, you know the picture then, is if there's something that, you know, we'll let our superintendent go first, because we may not know the history on that part, those things have occurred, but that may be something that we may can help from either a superintendent or board side of the house. And it may be the same type of thing when you're talking about congestion. I know sometimes it depends on what roads and other things are also built when we're looking in the future. If we can help with that, I'm just saying, just let us know.
Will do.
Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to bring that up too. Good. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I had one.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
My question about the Raptor system.
Yes,
What
sir.
exactly does it look for?
So the Raptor system is a sexual offender database.
Okay.
It does not look at criminal history. It does not look for restraining orders or anything else like that. It just strictly sexual offenders.
Okay.
It's updated. It pretty much matches the state and the national database. But say if we have an issue, say we have a parent who's been identified as a possible, he got arrested for being a sex offender. Well, we're not going to know that until everything's been adjudicated and he actually becomes an actual registered sex offender. So that's the one drawback what we have for the Raptor. But that's the only thing it looks at is, are you a sex offender?
Okay. So if you have a warrant, it's not even gonna.
No, no, sir.
Interesting. Well, that's it. I'm sorry.
Good, no, you're fine. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Well
you,
done.
Shane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. All right, so next we go over to our school boundary.
Yes, that would be me also.
Oh, okay, I'm looking around. All right. Sorry.
I know you were scanning the room. It is me. So, but actually, I'm going to introduce a couple of folks. But before we do that, giving you a little bit of context. So in September, we brought you the proposal for the Chumley attendance zone. In October, last month, we had our hearing. And so here we're back now to bring you the results of the hearing and the recommendation from the School Boundary Advisory Committee. But to give you a little bit of context, because it's been a while, I thought, and you've heard of of 10,000 foot level. This is more like a 30,000 foot level kind of overview. So the primary purpose to open Chumley Elementary is to relieve Cole. Cole is the largest school, elementary school, I should say, in Northside ISD, probably one of the largest in the city, with about 1,200 kids. So obviously we need to bring relief to Cole Elementary. And so that's the primary reason to open it. Along with that, and you'll see two colored areas there, is the actual proposal for the attendance zone for Chumley, as well as an associated boundary to give it the proper, if you will, relief, and that is to bring an area near Galm and move those students out of Cole to there to kind of put them at the number that we think is appropriate in terms of an elementary school size. And so, next slide. So this is the Chumley area that brings about 576 students from Cole into the brand new school. We heard very little, if any. In fact, I think one comment I got was, yay, thank you, we want a new school and want to move to Chumley. And so they understood the overcrowdedness that exists there. So you could see there that the 576 brings Cole to 996, but still hovering at 1,000 students. So what more can we do for Cole? Next slide. And so this is where the associated boundary, which we've done in the past, comes into play. And that is the area closest to Galm there that you see highlighted, that we also recommended and presented at the hearing, that we bring an additional 286 children from these two neighborhoods or areas that are numbered 9 and 10 to Galm and further relieve Cole Elementary. And next slide. That would then knock down Cole Elementary to what we think is a very reasonable, for now anyhow, 710 students. You see Chumley opens with the 576. Galm, which is one of our smaller elementaries at 400 students, would only go up to 696, plenty of capacity that we would be able to accommodate those students from Cole. So total would be about 862 kids that we would remove from Cole to the new school or to Galm, leaving it at that 710. To give you some, big picture perspective. So Galm, as I said, largest Northside Elementary, about 1,200 kids. Galm Elementary, 400 children, one of the smallest ones that we have, 0 portables. Cole, by contrast, 1,200 kids, 22 portable classrooms. So we, again, that gives you some perspective as why we think Cole really needs relief, and really Galm is the campus that in this case we think can further relieve it and bring it to a reasonable size. So Debbie, did I miss anything? All right. So with that, now I will introduce, we have two people here, important people, Mr. Richard Delgado, he's our chair of our School Boundary Advisory Committee, and our vice chair, Ms. Lori Whitmire, perhaps maybe a chair next year. We kind of, we have our eye on her, does a great job. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Delgado. Mr. Delgado.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Galindo. So it's going to be a privilege reading this report to you, since it will be my last. I'm just kidding. So good evening. My name is Richard Delgado, as Mr. Galindo said. So I'm the chair of the School Boundary Advisory Committee. So we're here this evening to present the School Boundary Advisory Committee's recommendation on boundary changes that would relieve Cole Elementary, populate Chumley Elementary School, and utilize capacity at Galm Elementary School to balance enrollments. So as you know, each time we do this, we follow the decision principles that you have asked us as such, maintaining neighborhood integrity and reviewing all growth projections, program accommodations, above all the student needs, cost effectiveness, and the frequency of change for students. So a public hearing was held at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, October 25th at Bernal Middle School, with a total of 1,200 School Advisory Committee members attending. Approximately 23 adults and children attended the hearing. Attendees do not include staff members. Prior to the hearing, information about the public hearing was sent via email to families of students in grades EE through 4th who might be affected by the proposed boundary changes. Information was also posted on the Cole Elementary campus page. 258 emails were sent to families living in Cole to Chumley proposal. 168 emails were sent to families of students living in Cole to GOM proposal. Following the staff presentation at the public hearing, 8 parents submitted written questions regarding the proposed boundary changes, and staff shared responses before parents addressed the committee. 10 parents signed up to speak to the committee, and 9 shared their comments. First, we'll talk about the Chumley Elementary School proposal. This proposal would move approximately 576 projected students from Cole Elementary School to the new Chumley Elementary School, located at 4636 Frio River Run. Results of this community input slide, which is on the screen, was shared during the public hearing. As of October 25th, the district received 4 comments from households in the proposed boundary change areas to Chumley Elementary. 2 additional comments were received from areas not included in the boundary change to Chumley. From those affected by the boundary proposal, 1 was in favor of the proposal, 2 opposed the proposal, and the other asked why pre-K at Chumley. We did not hear from 98.4% of the families that received the information about the boundary proposal. At the public hearing, no parents signed up to speak to the committee about this part of the boundary proposal. The general themes parents expressed in the written feedback included the desire to remain at Cole Elementary, the concern about losing current support from teachers. So as a committee, we reviewed the feedback from the proposed area from Cole to Chumley and noted there was very little response from these areas. So in summary, we recognize the parents' voices are significant in boundary changes. However, in this proposal, the lack of voices spoke clearly to our committee. We feel that our recommendations meet the need of Northside ISD while addressing overcrowding to an existing school and the future growth of issues for our students. So, for our recommendation for the Cole to Chumley Elementary School proposal, by a vote to 12-4 and 0 against, we recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the administrative proposal from Cole to Chumley Elementary. This proposal would affect approximately 576 projected students in the Chumley Elementary School attendance area effective August 2024.
I think we need to take a vote on this, don't we? There'll be 2 separate votes. This one for obviously Chumley and then the associated.
Before I move to accept this recommendation from the committee, thank you so much. I know you don't get anything. Do we even give them food when they meet?
Yes.
Food.
You get snacks? Do you? Deli trays. Y'all are.
Well, actually, Mr. Delgado, he gets the privilege as a result of heading up this committee to serve on our NEF board as well. So
I love it. I love it. So both of y'all, I know, have given up time away from families and friends. So thank you very, very much. And with that, I'd like to move that we accept his recommendation for the boundary changes.
Any further comments or questions or discussion? Trustee Freeman?
Yeah, clarification, something you just said, we need 2,
This one from Cole to Chumley, and then.
okay, we're just talking about Cole to Chumley right now.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Cole to Gong will
Clarification.
follow.
Okay, all right, that was just my question, I just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Just want to know, like, for the community to be aware, could we have done anything to get more response to our survey? Else,
We
as we did, right?
we emailed. We used to mail. What do you call it? Snail mail, US mail. So go ahead.
We had a lot of complaints when we sent US mail notification because the mail is not very timely.
Mm.
And so lots of families said they would receive mail after the fact.
Okay.
Or never got it at all. So we moved to using district emails for those families.
Yeah.
Actually, that started right before COVID, and we've had a higher response rate on average using the email communication as opposed to the snail mail.
Yeah.
So Yes, Dr. Duran, we think we've done
Yeah.
a good faith effort in trying to.
Thank you.
It was. It's on the school website.
Yeah.
If you go to the campus site for GOM, for Cole, or for Chumley, the proposal is also posted there as well,
Yeah.
along with information about the public hearing next Saturday.
Thank you guys for all you do. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to approve the the boundary change from Cole to Chumley as presented. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Good, motion carries. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to Cole to Gom.
All right, so next, I'll talk about Cole to Gom Elementary School proposal. This proposal would move approximately 286 projected students from Frontera at West Point subdivision and Urba at Juniper Point, an apartment complex that is currently under construction. Gom Elementary School is located at 1454 Saxon Hill Drive. The result of this community input, which is the slide that's being shared, was shared during the public hearing. As of October 25th, the district received 65 comments from households in the proposed boundary change area from Cole to Gom. Of those, 1 was in favor of the proposal and 63 opposed, and the others asked about transportation to Gom and participation in the dual language program. While the number of responses is large, we did not hear from 61.3% of the families that received the information about the boundary proposal. The general themes in the written parent feedback and from parents who spoke at the public hearing include the desire to remain at Cole Elementary School, effects of this boundary would change home values, the age of Gom Elementary and the condition of the school specifically in terms of safety and lack of updated resources. Families specifically moved to the area and bought a home to attend Cole Elementary. Differences in various school ratings and test scores between Cole and Gom, and concerns that students may experience a lower standard of education at Gom. Students' concerns about transition to different campuses and students successful at Gom Elementary. Concerns about multiple moves for military families and the desire for consistency. Questions about renovations to Gom. Dual language programs at Cole introduces transfer taking up spaces at Cole. After school programs / clubs at Gom not equal to the programs at Cole. Transportation for non-bilingual students in the dual language program. Families commit to the dual language program, but if the neighborhood is moved from Cole to Gom, they will no longer receive transportation. The need to have transportation to school, and this neighborhood area would not be eligible for transportation to Gom. Special education program needs, transitions for students with special needs, transfers at Cole such as bilingual or out-of-district taking up spaces at Cole. Concerns in the communication to families with pre-K students at Gom is less than the communication received about other siblings at Cole, and there were obvious differences in these schools. Cole is too crowded. Overcrowding at Cole resulted in crowded hallways, bathrooms, playgrounds, and use of portables. Questions submitted during the public hearing answered by staff prior to speaking to the committee included, will teachers from Cole be relocated? Will dual language programs remain at Cole? How many students are added to Cole for dual language? Why was dual language placed at Cole and not Gom? Will portables be removed from Cole? Will after-school enrichment activities be offered at Gom or move from Cole to Gom? Questions about student projections and transfer to Cole. Is there a plan to improve test scores and rankings at Gom? Do we calculate or consider the impact of boundary changes on home values? Questions about safety and security at Gom, including fencing and modern monitoring equipment. Will there be exceptions for students with special needs? What are the expected class sizes at Gom? What is being modernized at Gom? So during our deliberations prior to our vote, we discussed written feedback spreadsheets, moves by military family due to service versus Northside ISD, dual language programs for students identified as bilingual or dual language for families who elect to participate in the program, Northside's policy for dual language program as it relates to transportation, the difference in TEA scores between GOM and Cole, impact boundary change could have on GOM, the large number of pre-K students at GOM, which is 99. GOM is also serving pre-K students from Cole. Bond monies allocated to GOM, current renovations to HVAC and recent technology deployments. Specific safety concerns about GOM related to the fence surrounding school and cameras at GOM. Northside policy concerning parent choice transfers to currently assigned school and following a boundary change. Needs of the children in special education. Harmony School of Science Charter School in this area. Some written requests were received from families whose children attend Harmony. Enrichment opportunities / after-school programs at GOM, not all listed on the public campus website. New programs, added if there's not significant interest. Familiarity with school staff and current school. However, programs and instruction will be consistent with all Northside standards. Staff explained how teachers from Cole could be reassigned to Chumley or GOM Elementary School. Challenges faced by campus when enrollment is very large and the need to provide safe and most effective environment possible for students and learning, which supports the desire to balance enrollment between neighboring schools. GOM will work with Cole principal on a transition plan to welcome parents if the boundary is approved. So in summary, we reviewed the community responses and based our decision on how they relate to the growth of Northside ISD. We looked at the effectiveness of the recommendations and believe these recommendations will serve the children of Northside well. While we understand the discussion of zoning impacts all children and families, and that this area had a strong opposition for some in this community, we also realize that the boundary proposal has both opposition and support from those who may be impacted. We feel that our recommendation meets the Northside ISD while addressing overcrowding at the existing school and the future growth issues. So, with all that said, right? We dove into this one. So, for our recommendation for the Cole to GOM elementary proposal, by a vote of 12 for and 0 against, we recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the administrative proposal from Cole to GOM. The proposal would affect approximately 286 projected students from Cole to GOM effective August 2024.
Good. All right, thank you. Before we take the trustee question, Ray, could you talk a little bit more and get a little bit of information in terms of some of the feedback that y'all have gotten from the community and some of the things that you've done to talk about what GOM had and some of the other information that probably be valuable for the board to hear.
So we mentioned and at the hearing, some of the and try to highlight some of the programs that GOM has. Of course, I focus primarily on the size and how much smaller it was in terms of safety and security and everything, in terms of movement in and around the campus and how important that was in terms of trying to have a manageable number at an elementary level. But we highlighted and explained that our instructional programs, our facilities in terms of safety and security with cameras and fencing, some of which they mentioned or asked about, that we made sure that was as much as possible the same at all our 82 elementary schools. We also mentioned that if this proposal was approved as presented to you, then we would do everything possible to make it a smooth transition. Obviously, 286 children are a lot, so the neighborhoods themselves would come together. We'd have an orientation for them where we'd highlight, everything and welcome them as far as what can we do in the spring early to transition all those students and be ready to go in August. So we had all of those discussions in terms of how we would lay that out, and of course, just to give the school an opportunity. As always, Mr. Blunt and this board knows, if there's special circumstances with families, services that can be provided, programs, for example, I believe dual and bilingual that aren't going to be offered or aren't offered at GOM, that they would remain there. So those we would deal on a case by case, as we have always, to do what's best for the family, for the child, in terms of what their instructional program is currently and what would it be at GOM, and if we couldn't provide that we would obviously allow them to stay.
And then some of the information about like the TEA scoring and some of those type of things, was that also discussed with some of the folks?
Yes, that came up, and obviously right now everything in terms of scores is in flux, but what was mentioned is that the last rankings that we have that are publicly posted on the TEA website are both, that both schools are Bs. They asked in terms of economic disadvantage, if it was a Title I school, all of which we explained they're not, as far as GOM, but there are differences there. So that too was addressed and was a point of conversation that they had, or we had, I should say, that evening.
Thank you. Trustee Harrell?
Thanks, Roy, for saying that. That a couple months ago, that was my biggest concern is some of the, I know you didn't put tally marks next to the concerns, but it sounded like there was a lot of concern about safety and the condition of the GOM buildings, age-wise, et cetera. So that was my concern. The other was Cole has so many programs. And it'll be nice to hear, I guess, or it's nice to hear that GOM will try to recreate some of those ones that had like 200 and some odd kids we could probably get participation levels in the different clubs and organizations, but they just offered more. And so I would want the same for my children, to be able to continue in some of those after school programs or some of the Leader in Me, so that there is that kind of continuity. And so it was really just safety and then programs, right? If we put tally marks next to everything.
Correct.
And age of building. Okay.
Duly noted, and certainly working with the campus administration and teachers, strong PTA programs, everything that we feel will help and is a big plus at Cole that these families can now add to the GOM community we want to work through and try to have and replicate, and all in the name of a smooth transition.
Right. But really, anything immediate with safety that needs to be done?
No, in fact,
Fences, you mentioned.
Leroy's team, Leroy and I actually have been out there and certainly discussed what was in terms of projects in the future for GOM. Obviously, it is, and we acknowledge an older campus. But what was in store in terms of future bond projects, I will say, and not just, because, the setting we're in, but having gone out there, I thought the school was in great condition as far as the interior, the exterior, very, nice on the outside in terms of, it's a nice neighborhood school that's been established and been there for, I think it was opened in '87. But still in very good shape in terms of everything that I saw. Be that as it may, Leroy and I and a group he took of folks out there will address anything and everything if there is that needs to prior to August opening.
Okay. I would just hope that there would be something we could give, to make them feel a little bit better about going. I know they'll see a nice website with some organizations and clubs that'll be at GOM, but I mean, fencing sounds like something easy, and if it came up as a suggestion, maybe a quick win with something like that. I think safety would be probably the premier right now.
And I will say, in part of the committee, so the staff told us about, informed us about the upgraded technology is better at GOM than because it had just been updated. So there are some benefits there that we didn't mention because we didn't want to put one against the other.
Thank you, Ms. Whitmire. She's already acting like it's thank you.
I saw the note. I was waiting for her to hand it to me, and she handed it to me.
And thank you. Yes, that the folks that attended, the 20-something folks that attended, and obviously all from the Cole to GOM, Very respectful, said that the proposal Debbie put out was very well thought of. Certainly saw the logic behind that, so they recognize that. Half the questions, Ms. Whitmire seems to think, we're about, as you pointed out, safety. Dr. Har, 1 to 2, oh, I'm sorry, 1 or 2, not half. And that obviously the programs, certainly as much as possible, as you also said, that we'll try to replicate and have at GOM, as well as the website that needed a little work that we recognize as well. Really not just specific to GOM, really that's an initiative we have with all our elementary schools and schools in general to kind of update and make sure that website and whatever social media they have, to have it updated and highlight all the great things that are going on there. So those are a few other things. Thank you, Ms. Whitmire.
Thanks. Thank you.
Trustee Duran?
Thank you. I was wondering, we have a number of how many of those wanted to continue in the dual language bilingual program? How many, más o menos?
That'd be a Debbie question.
There were more general questions as opposed to specific. I've got 4 kids or I've got 3 kids, and we were very clear when we received the communication through Mr. Galindo's office. Anyone that had a specific question like that, my child's in dual language, would I be allowed to continue? Or will I receive transportation? Or will there be a pre-K program? We actually made personal phone calls to those parents as soon as we received those in as timely a fashion as we could each week, and communicated to those families that if their children are already enrolled in the dual language program and wish to continue, they would be staying. If the boundaries approved somewhat similar to what the proposal was, the numbers would be such that the recommendation is the dual language program would remain at Cole Elementary. So those families were notified of that. If they communicated that question, it was a written question that was also received, and we addressed it at that point in time.
And for special needs kids as well?
The communication we received from our special education program is the expectation is that we would have a full complement of special education programs available at Chumley and a full complement available at GOM based on the numbers of students, right? So once the boundaries approved, we survey that information. Our staff reviews all of that as we go to staffing in the spring. And as Mr. Galindo stated, and Ms. Palomares and her team stayed after the hearing and met with individual families who had unique questions. If there's a unique situation with a special needs child that can't meet the needs, it's the right thing to do to leave them, then they'll do administrative transfers to allow those students to stay, if that's the decision that's made.
And then the after-school care programming, that's a learning tree. That's something more easily able to be implemented. And I just want to tell the parents, because I had a few
We have those at all of our schools.
Yes, exactly. So that's going to be really good that we can do that. But the other question was the TEA score. That's something that we will work as a school to continue to raise the bar, right? So that we can be compatible. And with the shifting and alignment, that's something that I don't know what the difference is in score right now, but something that we're aware of as a district, right?
Yeah, they're both Bs. Right now, they're both Bs.
I will say that this committee, that came up from the community, but the committees, it's not one of the decision principles of what grade they have. Their role is to, based on the decision principles, primarily dealing with capacity is what's best for the community. But the whole notion and discussion of ratings came from the parents themselves. But
they're both the same grade, so that's good.
At the last time that there was a grading that was assigned, is all we can say.
Okay.
Yeah, there's this is a much larger conversation. There are a lot of questions in and around where accountability is even headed. As I mentioned earlier, it's being proposed to be completely revised, revamped with House Bill 1 and going forward. I do think that also we want to be careful not to discredit the hard work of all 3 campuses, but particularly Cole and GOM. You know, this letter grade system is not without some real major flaws and faults, and so I would hate to start looking at these letter grades, which I will argue are still pretty arbitrary, to really drive decision making. We want all of our campuses to provide excellent educational opportunities for students, obviously, and I just don't know that this letter grade assessment system is really should be a major driver.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the reason why it came, or at least when I sort of asked about it, is because I've gotten emails too, because the rumorville out there was there's significant differences between the two, and that's where we were addressing, not what it was or anything else, but actually that's, I don't know where we got that from, but it's not an accurate statement.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
I could speak to that. I know that because I addressed it that night, and I was clear as to what I'm basing and what my comment was. But there are a number of sites, and I'm not the tech savvy person, but there are some sites out there that my understanding is that as parents and others, you can kind of put your 2 cents worth as what you think about the school. And is it niche or whatever, Barry? So my comments were, I get that, but the only data I'm going to refer to is what TA's put out, and that's the latest report that they had, and that's all I spoke to.
Good, thank you. Good, okay. Trustee Saldana?
On transportation rate, so they will not have transportation if going from Cole to GOM.
Going from Cold, I believe they have and they will.
Our transportation department will review that like a hazardous committee review, a full review upon approval, if that was approved by the board. At their initial review is that the majority, if not all, again, they haven't done the formal review, would be eligible to walk. That community, the Frontera community, actually to traverse from their neighborhood to Galm Elementary goes through just neighborhood streets to get to the school. So transportation would review that, but many of them are within the 2-mile radius, so they would have to review if they were hazardous crossings.
Thank you. And then my other question also had to do with special ed. I don't understand what they were concerned about because all our campuses have special ed students, and we take care of all our kids, regardless of what school they're at. So, but I do want to commend you, Debbie, and your team, you all on the committee, because y'all are being proactive, and we all have been hearing recently about some of our sister school districts, how they're having to close schools. So I commend you so that we can get to a point that we don't have to do that. So thank you all for all your efforts on trying to get us all within Northside and not having to close any of our schools.
Trustee Freeman?
Thank you. So firsthand, I know that my neighborhood had been involved in a company boundary change to an existing school, and I know what happened. I will tell you the key person to that was the principal. I do not know the principal at GOM, but I am sure that this principal is going to be very welcoming to these parents. And I know one of the concerns of the parents of the school that was being affected with the company boundary change, the parents wanted to be, those parents that were involved in PTA were really key volunteers at, it was Beard at the time, wanted to be very involved at Helotes, and there was a concern that they would not be, and they were all included. The parents at Helotes Elementary were very welcoming, and there was room for everybody to participate, and the key is the principal. And so I know that I know administration. I just hope that was conveyed to the parents, that
it was, and it'll continue, as I said.
Sure.
After tonight, if you approve as presented, then work begins tomorrow morning with Ms. Palomares and the principal at GOM. And so, yes, that will.
There's room for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was a slide up with Finn. We were on the committee. We had a long discussion about Finn, their mascot. So we think
There's
that
that.
it's
Finn is the name of the dolphin. That's their
the
mascot. So he's ready to go as well if this is approved.
Learn something new tonight.
I will add one more, a positive, I think, and perhaps that kind of illustrates this evening. So, as I mentioned, you saw the 60-something responses that translated to 23 parents that showed up that night. And since then, principal reported there's already been 4 families that have gotten tours. They've all seemed to have gone very positive, and I say that because obviously, tonight, hopefully that's kind of, mirrors what the perception is, and already the understanding that we're trying to do what's best for them, and we'll certainly welcome them to go home.
Trustee Lopez?
Thank you. My question is centered around the facility. You mentioned that you and Leroy checked out the facility, you looked at it. What is it that needs to be done from a bond perspective or a schedule?
Two projects in the 22 bond. We're going to replace the entire flooring system throughout the facility. We put that on hold because we just finished de-gutting the entire HVAC system. Everything is new. We upgraded the filtration system and all of that. So we just finished that, put new ceilings, new lighting in it, and then we're getting ready to embark this summer to replace the entire flooring, carpeting, the entire campus. Along the way, I want to recommend to the building committee and superintendent, we're going to paint those hallways and give it some color, give it some pop, give it some updating.
Sure.
So those are the things on the parking lot, because the other thing is we're going to do the majority of the parking lot. That's going to happen this summer as well. That is slated as part of the 22 bond.
And the only reason why I ask is because if there were opportunities for us to be able to move that from if it was in a 3-year bond or, a 4-year bond, but if it was in the 3rd year of the bond, were we able to move it down and just kind of, so there's nothing in there that would require us or, okay, so it's going to get done. Okay, good, sir, good. I just want to make sure. Yeah. Bobby likes colors. Make sure you include him on that one.
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay,
Lopez,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Lopez, to your comment though, and I agree. That was exactly the conversation Leroy and I had. That what we don't want and is to come August have these projects going on. So as you said, if we could get those, give them a priority, and come August when they're there, that we have everything done and ready to go.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, any further comments, questions? Is there a motion to come before the board? Trustee Freeman?
Bobby, I motion to accept the proposal of the company boundary change as presented from Cole Elementary to GOM Elementary.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? All right, now it's been moved and second that we approve the accompanying boundary change from Cole to GOM as presented. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on the school advisory committee, as closing, just further recommends a timely communication be made to all families concerned via the Northside website. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good, seriously.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
And again, thank you all for your service. Congratulations on your change. Congratulations on your potential new position, et cetera. So, no, thank you all. And and somehow, I don't know if you all email, I should make the suggestion, but I will. Thank the other members too, because I don't know how often we thank them too. So
certainly will.
You take care of that part of it too. The last thing I'll say, this is from Debbie's perspective. I hate to bring up history again, but it's so interesting to listen to this because, when my kids were at GOM, it was the opposite situation. They were over 1,000, and we've been trying to relieve that for some time to sort of see it switch around a little bit. Is interesting in that particular area. So.
We brought Mr. Muir in case we needed.
Oh, just in case. All right. Well, good. Well, thank you all again. Thank you, Dave. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. You're welcome. All right. So next we'll go over our superintendent area, and we'll start with an internal audit program.
Yes, sir. I guess we bring up internal audit and we start clearing a room pretty quickly. I don't know what it is about this. Same effect at the finance committee. So we did have the opportunity at the last finance committee to briefly discuss our internal audit department, and we do have a department. We currently have just a reminder, a director and assistant director, both positions which are vacant currently. And so in our finance committee, we really talked about the audit universe, and I think that it's safe to say we felt like that this would probably be a worthwhile conversation to engage the full board. So I'll work through, like I say, the slides. Monica or Barry, if you want to display them on the main screen. I think they're loaded in board docs. This was the, like I say, the presentation that was presented at the last Finance Committee. So just again, as a reminder, a few things. One, the audit is really to be independent and objective, and this is really important from a fidelity standpoint, particularly as we get ready as a district to integrate, implement any form of audit recommendations. And again, just a reminder, it's an examination, it's monitoring with an analysis of activities related to the organization's operation. It's not just financial transactions, and that's sometimes a misperception. We do have an external audit or financial audit. It's now referred to as the ACFR, which really falls over in Dr. Bra's domain. A full internal audit program extends well beyond just a financial analysis of any shape or form, to include activity accounts, which I'll talk a bit more about here momentarily. And of course, the idea is to work collaboratively to really go about mitigating risk. You'll hear particularly internal auditors themselves talk about mitigating risk. How do we assess the risk, but then work, like I say, with the Board of Trustees to mitigate these risks? Again, the external audit is really a review of the accuracy of financial statements with materiality limits. This letter comes in the form of an annual audit, which you see each year, whereas an internal audit, again, goes well beyond finances and really provides what is optimally a 360-degree view of all operations, all things related to the district. So it can be argued, but this is a little bit more of an in-depth program that, like I say, is an annual process. The question of who's the boss, and we've talked about this, I know. The internal auditor in relation to Texas Education Code, TEC Section 11.170, must report to the Board of Trustees. And there's really no leeway here. And again, the Board of Trustees, if the internal auditor is to be hired, particularly internally and or externally, using a independent firm, has to be hired by the board as well. You'll see some of the benefits, and again, I don't want to belabor this. I won't go through all of them, but it can potentially save money, time, increase efficiencies, ensure funds are used effectively. But one of the main ones that districts like to employ, the internal audit, again, whether it's being outsourced or it's in-house, is to demonstrate to stakeholders that there is this commitment to continuous district improvement. And that's a pretty important one. As far as the audit universe, the elements, again, these are just some examples of areas that can be tackled by an internal auditor, not to be all-inclusive. I think I've shared this with the Finance Committee. I've had the opportunity to undergo all of these departmental audits, and they can be helpful. Some are much more helpful than others, but when you're looking at key performance indicators in and around, I'll just use human resources, for example, not only onboarding or in-processing from hire date to actual attaining the position and to being on the job. I mean, there are all kinds of different metrics that can be applied across the board, across all the audit spectrum. The life cycle is also important. I think I mentioned that it all really should be predicated or begin in and around a risk assessment, followed by the development, which the board is heavily involved in with the audit plan. Not to say that there can't be some special projects that come up that are kind of one-off requests, but then the audit themselves always entail follow-up. So the audit is conducted, report is generated, but then a follow-up is included as well. Again, part of the conversation this evening is to really gauge what direction is the board interested in proceeding, because this will dictate in large part what we need to look at from a policy standpoint, but then also in preparation for either outsourcing or hiring the two positions internally and possibly additional positions depending on, like I say, the assessed need. I mean, that's going to be driven in large part by the board's desires, obviously. To kind of talk through the internal audit, obviously, policy framework, regulatory framework will be analyzed. The auditor will take a look at the operations, the description of the operations, so like operating procedures, processes, key statistics, performance measures, again, depending on what the department or function of the audit is going to entail. Transaction testing, data analytics, this is really, in essence, pulling sampling, so it could be if a special education audit is occurring, they might pull IEPs and determine whether or not all the testing associated with that student's IEP falls within the 45-day requirement. And again, it's looking for organizational efficiencies. And then ultimately, audit findings and recommendations are presented not only to the Board of Trustees, but also the district administration. So a little bit about the audit process, just how it's implemented. Obviously, the board would approve an audit plan. And I would recommend encouraging the board to take a look at it a year at a time, rather than really taking this kind of splintered department by department approach. And of course, that's dictated in and around a risk assessment. The auditor meets with the department to be audited. The audit is conducted. Then again, meets with the department before a full report goes to the Board of Trustees. Now, this is kind of a maybe an unusual one, but it's an important step because if there are any errors, not to say that the report itself will be changed, but if there are any errors, data is miscalculated or they've downloaded a wrong file, whatever the case may be, the administration working in, like I say, collaboration with the auditor will have the opportunity to review those results, correct any mistakes before, and of course this would be on the auditor's part, before it comes to the Board of Trustees to be presented. You know, again, I mentioned some of the options. I mean, there can be these one-time audits depending upon special projects or special needs. But again, the program, I will argue to be most effective is really more of a long-term approach, again, driven by an initial risk assessment, and it's really a commitment. And I mentioned the in-house versus outsourcing. Again, I think the district, from what I've researched, is pretty accustomed to always having an in-house internal auditor. And there are some pros. Obviously, the staff is full-time. They develop a pretty enduring understanding of operations, the Northside way, if you will. The cost associated should be cheaper. It should be a little bit less. But then again, on the flip side, depending on the individuals, will they have the in-depth knowledge, know-how, particularly to survey or to audit all departments across the district? Whereas outsourcing, there are several firms. Whitley Penn, I believe, is one. Weaver, Gibson Consulting, which, full disclosure, I've used in Killeen. There are several, but an RFP would go out, and then the board would interview and make the determination who's the best fit. But they're typically going to have a little bit broader skill set, simply because what they're going to do is they're going to subcontract with other entities that, say, have a really firm grasp on special education operations or transportation logistics operations, various departments. Again, outside independent third party, which it is going to be more than likely a little bit higher cost that would need to be budgeted. And I guess one of the negatives to outsourcing is these are not individuals that are in the district 24/7. They're not. What'll happen is there'll be an audit schedule plan developed. They'll come in. They'll spend time with staff interviewing, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. But then most of the legwork, is done offsite, wherever offices are going to be located. And then, of course, like I say, the implementation tracking. This is really the follow-on, if you will. Once the board receives the audit for whichever department or function of the district is to be reported, there's a follow-on in the sense of either a dashboard being created and then presented, which the board would have access to. There's implementation as far as recommendations and the status reporting. And like I say, there's various ways to go about this. But then it allows for the board to create this database of not only what has been recommended, but the district status as far as the implementation of these recommendations, usually with a kind of a percent complete type dashboard look. And then an effective program has a follow-up. So it's not as in-depth as the initial audit, but let's say that we were to audit our transportation department. The initial audit would be pretty in-depth. The follow-up audit would really be another look at what were the recommendations, obviously a survey of the initial audit, but then what were the list of recommendations, and then where is the district in regards to the implementation of those recommendations? Are they still being implemented as they were proposed? Are they complete first and foremost, and then is there anything else that needs to be reviewed? So that's kind of the audit universe. And so the real question this evening, as Renee and I have been talking about, is before we hire, say, the director and the assistant director, one of the things, if that's the route that we begin to proceed, one of the things that we probably need to look at is actually board policy in and around the audit and audit process. Does there need to be the consideration of a board audit committee? Should that fall maybe within business finance or the finance committee review? And so this is just an area, like I say, that we have these two allocations, these two positions, especially, though, if we want to try to look at putting an RFP together after we finalize policy, maybe even looking at a audit charter, which is a governing document that the board controls. But to put together an RFP to look at outsourcing this function as a district, because again, in doing so, the board will have to hire the firm and/or individuals, and then, like I say, they really report. If it is truly to be an internal audit position and/or department and/or outsourcing, they really need to report to the Board of Trustees. So we wanted to bring this in, try to answer any questions. I know that was a pretty quick overview, like I say, that we discussed with our committee, our finance committee, at the last meeting, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dr. Kraft. Trustee Lopez?
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, just to bring everybody up to speed, yeah, this was brought up in Finance Committee. We did hold it off to make sure that everybody had a chance to hear the presentation and then kind of, kick it around and what did we think as a board. So thank you, Dr. Kraft, for that. I have one question. When it comes to the in-house staff, or when it comes to the pros and the cons, and this is, I'm thinking slide 13. We talk about the pros being full-time staff, dedicated, staff developed, deep understanding of operations. On the con side, when we talk about fixed investments, what is it that we mean about fixed investments? Are they themselves fixed investments? Is that what we're talking about as an investment, as a staff member? Is that what we mean?
Yeah, so no, I think really that was really more referencing to kind of think about if we were to outsource, or if the board were to elect to outsource, typically what would happen is, okay, well, we're going to budget $200,000 annually, and we know that we're not going to exceed that. So depending on, say, what a transportation audit, and I don't mean to keep picking on transportation, but maybe a HR department audit, you get costs associated with those audits, and you don't exceed those costs. So it usually very rarely ever comes in, say right at $200,000. But you're going to know each budget cycle if outsourcing is to be the option. These are going to be fixed costs.
So that could be something that we would eventually see in a finance, in our numbers, Renee, maybe that this would be like a part of the improvement package? That
Yeah,
basically
absolutely.
depended on what department or whatever circumstance, that would be something that would be like an improvement, a growth and improvement package, right?
Yeah, and that's a great point in the sense that when we say fixed investment, the investment piece is the audit,
audit
not necessarily
department or
whatever
not?
recommendations come of the audit from a continuous improvement standpoint. So in other words, let me give you another example. A transportation audit. It might be a recommendation that you really need to try to hire an additional 4 or 5 dispatchers.
Right.
Just as a hypothetical. That wouldn't necessarily be a fixed investment. That's going to be something that's going to more than likely fluctuate from department to department. But that's part of the audit is assessing needs, which could include personnel needs.
Okay.
So it's really more, we're going to establish for budgeting purposes, we're going to establish, $200,000. We're not going to exceed it.
We're going to budget.
Right.
We're just going to say,
Whereas-
line item, this is going to be 200,000 that we're not going to exceed because it's going to go into, based on the recommended goals
Yep.
that we put out here.
Really, the risk analysis should drive prioritization.
Right.
But that's not to say,
Yeah.
it's really up to the board.
Yeah. And I like all of that, and that was just why I was asking that question when it came to fixed, fixed investments. Because what you're saying here too also is that there is a likelihood when you outsource this that, based on the rate on the outside, it's going to be significantly higher.
Can be.
Can be.
Yeah, it really depends, and maybe I didn't explain this correctly. So, like, if it's an internal in-house audit, there's not as much of a concern as, say, busting a budget.
Sure.
Because they're in-house, they're already employed by the district. They would be on the Northside ISD payroll.
Right.
Whereas you may have some limitations. I think I probably explained it backwards. You may have some limitations with, say, setting a $200,000 or $150,000 budget as to how much work can actually be conducted.
Right.
Now, with that, I will say that there's a fine line between the number of audits that can be managed and conducted within the district any given year and be reported to the board audit committee if that's the desire of the board. Like there needs to be a little bit of a balance because you can kind of, you can wear out departmental staff if you're not real careful with over auditing in any given year. I don't know if I explained that as well. And Renee,
Yeah, you had mentioned also we were going to, if this were to occur, we're going to prioritize our high needs area per year so that we're not asking for too much at a given time frame.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a great
hold on.
point as well.
Can I just finish asking my question?
Yeah.
So, because I understand what you're saying, and to Carla's point is that, yeah, we're going to prioritize, and I understand all that. Would it make sense to have kind of like a blended type scenario where we do have a director, the auditing department, and then maybe, we can have them do certain audits, and maybe through a contractual agreement with who does our external audits, maybe we include that to maybe help out. But also to your point, we don't want to hit heavily on a lot of these audits but maybe we could contract or work something out with our external auditing firm and say, you know what, hey, we're going to contract with you to doing our external audits, but we're also going to add this line, we're also maybe looking at this in the event that, let's say, the audit department comes up and says, we recommend doing this. Could there be like a blended version of that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and Renee,
I'm
I'm
just
gonna.
looking at numbers, right?
Right.
What would it look like? What would the numbers look like?
We'd have to, we'd have to make
Would it be
sure.
attractive to the firm too as well, right?
Maybe a couple things. We'd have to make sure that the RFP and services being rendered by external audit would actually be appropriate. I don't. I think that they probably do some internal audit work for various boards, but Renee, you can probably answer that question.
Your external auditor, if they're engaged in auditing your books like we have every year, if there's something the board is interested in, it's usually not that auditor that the board will ask to come in and do an internal audit. It's different for
Okay.
to maintain their objectivity and their independence.
Okay.
And those other kinds of things. So there's enough firms out there that would come in and say, what would you like us to do? The scope of work is that the board would like an internal audit of, let's pick on transportation again.
Yeah.
Transportation, well, tell us exactly what you want us to look at. And then they will give you a price and you move forward. And
Yeah, I think the challenge would be, like, how do you make that decision? Like, what's the delineation? Like, how do you determine, we're going to look to outsource this particular audit versus keeping it in-house?
Yeah, because you mentioned that there's a specific knowledge that you have to have when it comes to these type, audits. So that concerns me, right?
Yeah.
Do
I think I'm sorry.
That if we have a fixed staff, do they have the in-depth knowledge to do those type auditing, audits, those type audits with accuracy, whereas compared to the auditing firm, right? So I'm struggling with that.
Right.
I want to get the best that we can get, but I'm having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And I guess
Well,
I don't know if anybody else is as well, because you bring up a specific point. That's you got to really know what you're doing when you're doing those type audits. So I'm challenged with that.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily, when we say and I say pros and cons, I don't know that necessarily there's like the perfect path. I think that internally, let me say, if you were to keep it in-house, if we could find that level of expertise that has the ability and the know-how to really go in and about implementing an audit for specific areas, perfect. I do know that in my conversations with individuals that work for firms that are outsourced, it's just hard to find those individuals that have that level of expertise, global level of expertise, particularly for a large organization. Now, that's not to say it's not possible. It just, when you think about when you think about that level of knowledge, there's just not a lot of individuals that have been associated with particularly public education that have, like I say, that real familiarity with transportation, but then can go over it to special ed, but then bounce over to facilities and maintenance, and it just.
So no, I got what you're saying.
It's kind of a tricky position.
Yeah, I got what you're saying, Dr. Kraft. So then, maybe Renee, or maybe you can help me with this is my last answer, my last question. So what are the other big districts? What do they have? Do they have just a specific department and that's it? Or is it?
I think in my research that I did about a month ago, I think if you take the top 10 districts by enrollment, all of them have an internal audit department.
Okay.
Various sizes. Houston internal audit department, at least the time when I was there, probably had a director, assistant director, and maybe 5 staff auditors.
Okay. And each of them may have been specific in certain areas, or trained, or whatever, right? I mean,
yeah, there's just a lot of moving parts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right now we have 2 allocated positions, but that's not to say that depending on the direction that we try to head, that department is not inclusive of some individuals that have those different levels of expertise across departments.
Thank you.
Trustee Freeman?
Yes. So a couple things that as I've listened to this conversation, one, we need to probably look at our policy and find out who is actually going to do this. Well, I don't see it in it's any different as the committees that we already have, where we already have a finance committee and anyone on this board can participate. I would hate to have a subgroup of the board participate. I think it should be a full board. That's just my opinion, because that's how we work our committees. Bobby, you look like you had a question to that part. And then regarding the in-house and outsourcing, I look at our district as having very complex systems. And so where I see the advantage of outsourcing is we could have a consultant that would bring in a group of people. Say we wanted to, again, look at transportation or look at nursing. These people that would come in would actually have experience in looking at other school districts and what other school districts have done. So perhaps they could bring in, or would be better capable of suggesting best practices such that we could become more efficient. And so that's where I see the advantage of outsourcing. I don't know how the other school districts and I appreciate your looking at that, Dr. Barajas, regarding other school districts. I just don't know how they do that with that same group of people in-house. Whereas, how do you get new ideas and look at continuous improvement is how we can improve. That's just my thoughts on that.
Okay. All right, and I'll just add, reason I reacted, Karen, is going back, the May-Bada before that's how we did it, through the Finance Committee. Right. That's the one that met with the internal auditor. I'm going back a long time ago. And I will tell you this, the other thing that we would do is we would have discussions with the internal auditor to try to figure out what we should be doing per se. That's part of the function at that particular time. So it could vary. I do, I guess, listen to the discussion and see Dr. Kraft and others what you think. So what I hear is sort of two things. I know this is just discussion. The first one is having the policy committee look at the policy and covering that, so we have that area covered on what needs to be done. The second one, I don't know whether it be through that policy committee or if y'all have another suggestion, or we put it back on the agenda again, but we as a board have got to give some guidelines on what we want out of that function, because that's going to determine everything else. I couldn't answer that question on whether it should be external or whatever. So wait a minute, if the board wants a direction that fits mainly internal auditor for whatever reasons, then that's the direction you go. If it's expertise needed in an area that we think our internal auditors wouldn't have, that's the direction you go. So somewhere I think we need a dialogue on, okay, what does the board really want?
Yeah, and sorry, again, we have these two positions which we just held on until we really have that dialogue, because if it wouldn't make sense to try to do both at this point. Now, maybe as it morphs and evolves, never say never, but those funds that we have allocated for those two positions could potentially go towards the outsourcing cost if that was the direction the board wanted to pursue. And there's a couple things we can do. I mean, we can, yes, definitely have policy committee review board audit policy, but then we could also bring in at that same meeting a proposed RFP for services that would outline, really more or less define, here are the services that we would, as a district, the board would be seeking to try to hire, and that might provide some clarity. And then also, on the flip side, bring in the actual job descriptions for the director and assistant director to review, because I think it's, it's one thing for me to try to explain, what both aspects look like. It's really going to be a level of comfort that the board has to determine. It's not really a recommendation that I can necessarily, as a superintendent, bring to you. This is what I would suggest, because it really the function needs to report independently to the Board of Trustees.
Trustee Harrell?
No, and I thank you for that very much. And the discussion's been great. I think at that time, I know you said you might want to bring an RFP. It would, if there is any kind of a dollar amount that we could, like sometimes forming policy or practice, I would want to know perhaps what that would cost. Like if it's in our reach, if it's something doable, that kind of thing before, or at the same time I was deciding things about policy. I'd kind of like to know what the monetary ballpark
I could try to pull another district's what the outsourced cost would be. We can definitely I can pull that from another district, and then of course the comparison would be just what are the salary costs associated with an audit department. So.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Trustee Duran?
I really do. I liked when you explained this to me. I don't know. I feel like this is deja vu before about how this internal process is would work. I do believe that we do need a checks and balances internally just to make sure that we're operating properly, that everything is cohesive, and it just helps us be a better overall entity with that. So it is to help us just be better internally. I do see there's a cost benefit analysis here of a fixed cost versus who knows how much it would cost. So for that reason, I feel like I'm more towards an internal one that would be here, constantly helping us fix systems if there were a need. So that's where I'm leaning towards more of just having that continuity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if everybody's okay, then it sounds like the route we would go, maybe future agenda item, or we do it now. Policy committee, handle it all. All right.
Dr. Kraft and President Blunt, if I could, we do fall under the government code as well as the education code. We fall under many codes, specifically here. If we are looking for services from a professional, which this would be a professional, a CPA firm, the government code says that you're not going to put out a bid to say, tell us what the price is going to be. You have to pick them based on their, here's the term, demonstrated competence. That's an RFQ. So you basically say, send us all of your glossy 8x10s and how pretty you are and all the great things you can do. We pick them based on the fact that they have done this work for many other governmental entities. We then select them, and then we start to negotiate the price. But we pretty much know the ballpark, or at least maybe in the parking lot of the ballpark, how much we think they're going to charge as far as hourly rates per hour for the principals, for the junior staff auditors, those other kinds of things. So we cannot, under the government code, put out something that says, tell us how much you'll charge us for this. So.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. All right, so that concludes our discussion, and it's like we have a way ahead. Okay, thank you, Dr. Kraft. All right. So next we'll go on, the next three sort of relate, but next is our election of Bexar County Board of Directors. Bearcat?
Yes, sir. So the next three items you mentioned, we have Bexar County, Medina, and Bandera appraisal district selections, nominees, voting, I should say. As you have seen with Bexar County, Dave Gannon is our nominee. And then this one requires the action of the board by resolution, or actually all three, but you'll also find that there's a resolution for your consideration. I believe that you will also note on the third page the candidates, just discussing Bexar County right now, that are up for election. And like I say, this item is for your consideration. In totality, there are 5,000 votes across entities, and we, as a district, have, I believe, 1,046. So you'll see that is the almost 21% of the voting body. So I guess where really what I'm getting at is that I don't mean to do math in public, but if you so choose, as a tax entity, you could elect Dave Gannon
Right.
pretty easily.
Yeah, and it's exactly so. So for our new board members that haven't been through this before, and it applies to this as well as the next two that are coming up. So again, Dave Gannon was the nomination, so we're assuming that hopefully the board is going to support that nomination. Typically, and it's varied each year, what we would do is we have the 1,046 votes, and what we've got to do is if we want to fully allocate 1,046, we could figure out, what's the minimum that we need to guarantee that whoever we want to be that primary candidate, hopefully Dave Gannon again, and then we can allocate our remaining votes either to a particular candidate or to multiple candidates, however we want to do that part of it. So, go ahead, Karen. I have some, go ahead.
Okay, so how many votes do we need to elect Dave? We have you said we have 1,046.
My math said 848, but let me have somebody verify that.
We need to know exactly because we want to make sure that we
49 then. Go over one.
How do we figure it
No,
out?
how many-
mathematically. Yeah, I mean,
No, but I'm sorry.
6 divided by, what's the most somebody could get?
No.
I would definitely go 835. And Kelly, you can do my math for me again, but might even go 836 just for good measure.
Oh, y'all did it already?
It's 833.333.
So what they're doing is they're doing 5,000 divided by 6, and that's where you get the 833. I did my math wrong.
Okay, I didn't understand that, but okay. So, and my assumption, I know that the other night Northeast had allocated all of their votes to John Fisher. They met the other night.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's how you knew that. Okay.
And I was told that they requested. Now, do we have any request from these other people?
Yeah, the other. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have not received any request. Kelly, I don't believe you've received any request. Barry, I'm looking at you. So no. To our knowledge, there have been no other requests.
And I will, real quick, Karen.
I was told Northeast had submitted a request, so that's bothersome, but.
Yeah, because.
Don't know who that would have gone to.
In the past, I would tell you this, the board members, I don't know from who they would have sent to. In the past, the board members know historic, what we also would do, the Bexar County School Board Coalition sometimes would have discussion along these particular lines too, or get requests through trust, but I have not seen any requests at all either. So Dr. Kraft hasn't, we're looking around, and I haven't either. So
Well, it would have had to have come up through a written request, right? It doesn't have to be.
Not necessarily. Okay. Yeah.
Monica, you haven't seen a request.
I have not.
Okay.
And Dave Gannon already serves on the board, just to
Actually, I believe he was just nominated to be the chair of Bexar County.
Well, if Northeast only gets 707, they're going to need some of our votes to get the 835.
No.
Yes.
Wouldn't they?
834.
Yes.
Yeah.
34.
Yeah.
They would, because they only have 707.
Right. So that's the question before the board is, there's other candidates here. If somebody else said, hey, I know so-and-so and I suggest this, but if we want to support Northside, we do want to support Northside. If we want to support Northeast, that would be another, we could figure out what the 834 is and allocate accordingly, or.
27 of our total with the new teacher.
And
We have 211 that we can share.
212.
The way I look at it, so Somerset, the two other school districts who have nominated people, Harlandale and Somerset. Somerset only has one, is that right? The Somerset has 9 votes.
9 votes. We don't have
And
enough.
we don't have enough to ensure that Somerset's nomination gets through. And the other one is Harlandale, right?
We only have 43.
And so we don't have enough to bring them up. So my suggestion would be to ensure that the Northeast nominee gets in. So we submit enough to John Fisher and then perhaps split the difference between Harlandale and Somerset. I guess my question is here, though, Dr. Barajas, do we know that any of these other entities have met? What about our other school districts? Has anybody allocated, like, does John Fisher have enough votes to already?
Yeah, don't know.
Why don't we know? I mean, like, do we not get that information?
Each district.
Should we not?
Again, since my arrival here in Northside, this has always been handled by the board, by various presidents who we're talking to other boards, saying you have enough to get your guy on. Can you give us the rest and those kinds of things? So staff has never really been involved in this. So.
Right, and it's also, and typically what also would happen, and I'll tell you it happened this time, is these other boards would talk to other entities that are listed here.
Sure.
And we'd have sort of a feel on where everybody was, but we don't have that.
Well, I guess that would be my suggestion, is to ensure that Dave Gannon got in, to ensure that John Fisher was in, and then split the difference between the other two school districts.
Because the city of San Antonio has enough, so theirs is gonna get in. We have enough to get ours in. And Northeast is close, but Harlandale and Somerset are nowhere near, and I haven't checked Almus Park.
And it seems like if we go this particular route, at least for the information we have, we do 834 for Dave Gannon, 127 potential for John Fisher, 43 for Rebecca Ruiz, and 42 for Leo Salas. I don't know what all these folks do. If the math is right.
And then, okay, please be sure your math is right. I'm not writing this down. We ensure that John Fisher and then Dave Gannon have the same number of votes, so that we know that.
Well, do we want Dave Gannon have one more than John Fisher? No, really. Huh?
Well, okay, fine.
27, so just give Northeast 127 and we keep the others, because the other two school districts don't stand a chance.
Well, depending,
The numbers are so small.
there's other school.
Yeah, remember, we don't know that. There's other boards voting on this. We don't know who's backing who. We don't even, Northeast may have gotten votes from others too. So it's yeah. So our thing is ensure Dave Gannon and do the best we can with what we think we want to do with the other ones.
43. Who do you think is going to give them
Oh, I can,
800 votes?
you'd be surprised.
Gotta have 835.
No, actually, be careful. You don't have to have 835 because there's such a wide distribution. Historically, you don't even, I think 300 or 400 got people in, if I remember. I'm guessing now, but you don't need 835 to get in. And you won't have anybody else get that many probably when you get to the others. Because how many are we looking for total?
Okay, so make a motion.
Yeah.
1046, which is correct. You have
I
your
did it right?
numbers correct, yes.
Numbers
Kelly
right.
and checked it.
So am I making a motion then? All right, I haven't done that in a long time. All right, so I make a motion that move that we.
Can you make the motion or somebody else make the motion?
No,
That's what I wanted.
Bobby could.
No, I can do it.
Okay.
We're all equal.
Making sure.
For the record. All right, so I'll move that we allocate number of votes as follow. Dave Gannon, 834. John Fisher, 127. Rebecca Reese, 43. And Leo Salas, 42.
Yes.
46.
Yeah, I only now I'm questioning myself. The only thing I worry about is, okay, we'll be all right. Because Northeast may get more, but that's fine.
Well, here's another piece. So when you split the difference between the other two school districts, 42 and 43, one gets more than the other. Leo Salas is a trustee. Oh, okay. So we're giving the extra point to the trustee. Just saying.
No, actually, can I amend mine? Can I amend my motion?
Rebecca is a Harlandale trustee.
I know.
Okay.
Can I amend it? All right. Go ahead. I'm going to increase it.
What?
To 1,000.
900.
I'm sorry. So what?
Okay, so I'm just thinking mathematically. Sorry, I'm not trying to make this more difficult. So there are 6 candidates. It's the 5 with the most votes.
Right.
What are you thinking? Say it out loud.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're not
Yeah.
miscalculating. And I think, Bobby, that's where you
Yeah.
were headed.
Yeah.
You're going to raise it to 900?
Yeah, I was gonna say 900.
That should cover it. I'm tracking
We for
exactly
sure
where you
have
are.
Dave
Yeah,
Gannon
yeah,
in
yeah, I
there
know.
that nobody else can throw in anything, or,
Right.
yeah, knock him out.
Well, let me,
I agree with that.
Northside has over 1,000. The next high one is San
Yeah.
Antonio, the city of San Antonio with 899.
Right.
We've got the highest number of all, so
No.
San Antonio's gonna get theirs in, and Northside's gonna get theirs in. If we go by the votes that they're showing us here.
if Dave gets 900,
We secure
Bear
him, and
County
that's all
has
that matters.
645.
That's a good point, too.
I'll play this out and make sure my thinking is along your line you're thinking. If Dave Gannon has 900, there'd have to be 4 other candidates that have 900 votes. That gives you 4,500 votes. That's only 500 votes left.
Right.
So again, regardless of how those 500 are dispersed, the 6th candidate, whoever that is, mathematically, there's just no
No
way.
way of getting out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because what I was gonna say is, why don't we just give all our votes to make sure Dave Gannon gets in there, and that's it. We're not worried.
That's also an option.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
Well,
But I would still like to ensure somebody
Let's
else.
just,
Well,
but if we do that, then we're not helping
Right.
another school district get
Right.
in.
right.
Dave's
Don't
our
we-
guy.
don't
Dave's
we
our
wa-
guy.
Don't we want school districts to be in there?
Well,
This is due back via resolution by December 15th. We meet again on December 12th.
Oh, let's do it now. No. Hey, I got another. All right, what if, and then Trustee Freeman, what if we did, here's my thought now, all right? So if we did 900 for Dave Gannon, 100 for John Fisher, and then 23 and 23 for Rebecca and Leo.
And that gives John Fisher how many?
He wants to give him 100,
Which gives him total?
807.
Yeah.
If we give Northeast 100 votes, they get
Yeah.
807.
Because the city already will get theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, they'll negotiate
that's
there.
gonna be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just wait these out when I get to
That doesn't insure John Fisher? No.
Which we
we
can,
don't
which we
know.
can anyway.
We don't know if Northeast was given any votes by anybody.
If we're not insuring John Fisher, then I'd just assume take the Somerset and
See-
Harlandale votes and give them to Northeast. That's
So
just
let
my
me-
thought.
Let me ask you this, I don't know John Fisher.
Oh,
well,
okay, excuse
But I
me.
know
I don't.
Rebecca
okay.
and Leo a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why.
we can, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we know David.
I'd like to get Rebecca.
I would like for Bobby to find out whether any other school district has a chance if we give them
We don't.
extra votes.
Let's table it.
Or
till-
extra votes.
So then delay until, postpone it
Yeah.
until
Delay
the
it till
12th.
the next,
I hate doing that.
till the next board meeting. That's one.
All right, that's fine. All right. No, that's fine.
Well, okay, so
We can do homework.
that is a good point. Not to, again, complicate matters, but, and again, we're doing math out loud, which is dangerous. Really dangerous. Assuming that a individual on the ballot were to get 0 votes, would it be 1,000 to guarantee the seat, mathematically speaking? Not necessarily. It could be, if there's a candidate that receives 0 votes, it could be one gets 1,200, one gets 800. I mean, it could be dispersed. I think that the 1,000 absolutely guarantees an individual.
Right, or the other thing, which I didn't like at first, but now I'm swinging back on myself that maybe we do wait to December and we would have more information.
Yes.
And we
There
can-
is a little note here that it says, oh, God.
Is that what it says?
That's what they all start with, and a roll of the eyes. Okay, a recent amendment to Section 603 of the Texas Property Tax Code states, a taxing unit with at least 5% of the total votes, that's us, in the election for Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors must determine its vote by resolution adopted at, this is the important part, at the first or second open meeting of the governing body that is held after the date the chief appraiser delivers the ballot to the presiding officer of the governing body. This was dated October 18th, which means then October was the first meeting, this is the second.
Second meeting?
So now we have to.
That's what I read, but somebody could
Yeah.
interpret
No,
that
that's
as
good.
something else, so we don't have till December. This
Right.
is the second meeting.
Right,
so.
right, we don't want to mess that up, so. All right, so given superintendent, y'all want to, kill me. Y'all want to do the 1,000 for Dave Gannon, absolutely sure, and then divide the others up between the three, or what do you want to do with the other 46?
Okay,
Oh, I had more fun when I was sick.
that's fine.
All right,
Mr. Cold.
is that, so we do 1,001, and then we get 15 to John Fisher and I'm sorry, Rebecca and Leo?
Yeah. Let's just make sure our guy gets in there.
Okay. All right, so I'll move that we, the number of votes the board approves is Dave Gannon for 1,001. John Fisher, 15. Rebecca Ruiz, 15, and Leo Salas, 15.
Yeah, I gotta figure this stuff out.
Second.
Motion second. All right, any further discussion? All right, it's now been moved and second that we approve the number of votes for Dave Gannon for 1,001, John Fisher, 15, Rebecca Ruiz, 15, and Leo Salas, 15. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good, we made it. Good teamwork. I think.
Need a mic to drop it.
Okay, so next one. Yeah, so the next one, oh, I'm sorry.
No. So,
All right,
when
you
we
wanna
go on
take-
to Medina,
All we have to do is
No,
Yeah,
well, this
I
is
guess
easy.
the first question for this one, I'm sorry, Karen, did you have, man, Karen,
Well-
you were trying to get in.
I'm sorry. I just want, so on the December 14th, maybe in Friday letter, could y'all continue to update us as to
Yeah.
when, or Bobby, maybe you could talk to the other presidents and
See what they're doing.
and see what's going on with other school districts. Not that it makes it, I mean, we've already allocated our votes, but it would be nice that they know, or other school districts know what we did with our votes. That would just be my. Thank you.
Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask on the next one that we have, does anybody know or want to give all the votes to one of these candidates?
Oh, yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Wasn't he the one that's always represented us?
He was our former trustee.
Yeah, but wasn't he always represented?
No, it's not him.
Oh, it's not him?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it is, it's not, the school, the namesake is not Butch Gom.
No. Well, no, it's
But
not his son.
I assume
No, that's not his son either.
Who
That's,
is it? Are you sure it's not?
it's not him.
where's Ben at?
Clarence?
Oh, no, okay. Father, right?
Yes.
Father.
Thank you.
Good thing you're here, sir.
But I would assume that this is Butch Gom, our Butch Gom.
How many votes do we have? For this one?
Yeah, you found it? Yes.
144.
Okay, so we can allocate the 144 to Bush Gom, or do we want to allocate it some other way?
How many Harold Butch Goms could there be?
I know.
Know anybody?
All right, well, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. We're not going to really break this one. All right, anybody going to make a motion then?
I move we give our votes to Butch Gom.
Second.
All right, moved in second. Any further discussion? All right, now it's been moved in second that we provide our votes toward Harold Butch Gom. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, okay.
All of them, but how many votes did they get?
Yeah.
Finally,
Bandera. Does-
55 votes that cast.
All right. Does anybody know or prefer one of these candidates that we give votes to? Is it 6, right, Doggett? All right, what we've done before, yeah, exactly. What we've done before is we didn't know, we want to vote. It's important to vote. We emphasize that, right? So we do want to vote. But what we would do is allocate equally the,
Let's give everybody equal number of votes, sure.
but a mathematical problem, math problem.
9 and then one person gets 10.
Yeah.
Right.
You give Denise 10.
It's okay. Okay. Make the motion.
You can make the motion, Carol.
Denise, there you go.
Yeah, I move that we give Dawn, Russell, Bo, George, and Mike 9, and Denise 10.
I second that.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. All right, thank you all.
Carol, what did you give?
9 to Dawn,
Yeah. I know, we're gonna make it.
10 to Denise.
I'm gonna miss practice tonight, but that's okay. I'll check later.
Thank you.
All right, I lost my.
I'll be quick. Operating.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Trustee
Yeah.
team operating.
Yeah. Let me say first, to introduce you before you. We're so excited to have everybody here all at once, so we can do our team operating procedures. So, Dr. Kraft's been anxiously awaiting.
All right, so anxiously. So if you recall, we made several revisions. You have two, like I say, revised operating team procedures documents. The one I'm going to bring your attention to is the second one, and the revisions they're in blue. They're marked in blue. On page 3, C3, the board will not deliberate, discuss, or make a decision on any subject that is not on the meeting agenda. And then I believe we had one more slight one, on page 4, under Roman numeral, I, under communication. So that would be 4I. Superintendent shall inform the requesting member if their request cannot be complied with prior to the meeting. I believe, Monica, were those the only
Those were the only two.
two
Those on 2
revisions?
and 5, those were the only small edits that were made on those.
And that should be one word.
Thank you.
And that's, change that. And are we gonna attach appendix A?
Believe, yes, we are going to, the Appendix A, as you recall, is the training
Right.
schedule.
Yeah.
So it just needs to be attached.
All right. Any comments? I'm sorry, Trustee Harrell? Or was that from earlier? And you got your card? Okay. All right. Any comments, questions on the team operating procedures? All right. Yeah, we have. Okay. Is there a motion to come before the board?
I move that we approve the board operating procedures as amended
Amended.
in this section.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Not been moved to second that we approve the board team NISD team operating procedures as amended during this discussion. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good. Thank you all. We have our board team operating procedures completed. That's great. Okay. And then related to that a little bit is our next was our board department visits.
So, yes, sir, the idea behind the departmental visits is really to send out invites and try to organize trustee visits to our police department, try to visit a school nutrition, or make a visit to our school nutrition department, transportation. I believe we also indicated that, I believe the sports gym was going to possibly be a site visit. And so, like I say, we wanted to just really have the conversation. We can go about this a couple of ways. Thank you, in the museum. We can go about this a couple of ways. We can just send out available dates and start trying to coordinate from there. I think the police department would be really beneficial. Well, and that's the question. We're gonna try to knock them all out in one day. We could look at trying to acquire transportation, but or do we want to divide them up like two
what do y'all?
sites per day?
For transportation to be there, for the museum people, and nutrition, they would all have to be there if we're gonna go visit them, wouldn't we?
We can look at calendars, but like for example, we have some departments that are working Monday, Tuesday. In fact, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week.
Oh, okay.
Christmas break, yes. Spring break, we need to look at calendars, work calendars. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
So it's how much time, like, so your comment just now, is if we were to do that, how much time could everybody allocate to a day time period? Because that would determine if we would do these just, like you said, a couple hours, and we're just going to do one or two, or if people can do a half day, we can do more.
Depends on the day.
Half day's a reasonable request.
If it's a holiday, I can do the whole day.
If it's what?
If it's a holiday, like spring break or Christmas break.
Well, we're talking about, okay. What we're talking about is trying to get them in November, December, possibly January. Would be, just to get them in, at least the ones we talked about so far.
To kind of give you an idea, I think the police department, an hour would be adequate to see all of the cameras and the patrol car. Transportation, 45 minutes. The museum, 45 minutes probably. So I would say 45 minutes to an hour per side.
So
Grants, I had asked about grants. I didn't see about that.
About which one, Joe?
We can. Yeah, it's right there. Currently right there at the museum.
Is that right there?
Yeah.
So we, based on what y'all are saying, if we do, I'm sorry, Karen.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, and then.
Schedule 2 half days? Because remember, you got to drive too, so I don't think we can make them all in one day, to be honest. Not within a half.
It'd be tough.
Yeah. So maybe if we did 2 half days, and look at the side of town.
Okay.
Sure.
Karen, sorry, Trustee Freeman.
I was just gonna say, if whatever we decide, then let's get some, like, 3 dates and then send them out and see who's available.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll actually probably try to include a few more than 3. I mean, we might.
Okay, 3 to 5.
Yeah, I'm thinking just a survey, probably
Okay.
4 or 5 at least.
All right.
Okay. That good with everybody?
That'll work.
That'd be great.
Okay. So let me make sure I've got the sites: transportation, museum, school nutrition, police department. I know the sports gym was discussed.
Was technology, Kelly?
Oh, Kelly said Kelly Center. Yeah.
Technology.
Kelly Data Center.
See, I'm not sure that the gyms are something we have to be into. I
Let-
think we've been in those.
Well, let me tell you why we put down the gym. Maybe we could do it. Everybody could do it on their own. I just happened to be at NAC, and I hadn't realized that they had built that area that they did to recognize athletes. Maybe it's just on me then. But I don't know if everybody's seen it. Yeah, I don't know if everybody else knows that. So what we could say is, and they take great pride in it. So maybe we don't necessarily do that during this tour, but if everybody could just remember that, at least go by and see it once.
It's a recognition of former athletes.
Yeah, it's really
that
nice.
Have been successful.
Yeah, and we had.
They have it at both gyms.
But the one in that we'd really requested. The board, it was a big deal to the board, so that's why. So we don't have to necessarily schedule it, but at least everybody noted. Take a look.
All we have to do is go to a basketball game at
Yeah.
Gus this month.
Yeah.
Just start it with basketball.
Or mid-year graduation, couldn't we?
Oh,
go
that's
see
true.
it? We could go see
That's
it
a good
at
idea.
mid-year.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still talking about a half a day, though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a lot for a half a day.
What's that? Oh, we're not gonna try to do it on a half day. We're 2 half days.
Oh, I
Two.
thought we were gonna get,
We won't make it. Yeah, driving wise.
we have to commit to 2 half days.
They're gonna send out some dates we can go.
Okay.
Transportation, museum, school nutrition, police department, technology. Is there any other site?
2 half days before Christmas.
I think it's going to be challenging.
No, we don't have necessarily, maybe do one before and one after.
I'm thinking, yes.
One before,
Schedules
one
are
after.
already made up until like
Did we add
Christmas break.
technology?
I've got technology.
So we'll pick one before and one after.
There's just a lot going on.
The ones that are closer, like police and nutrition are close to each other.
Yeah, and depend.
Yeah, and we'll try to be strategic about how we
And depending what transportation we choose, yeah.
put them together.
Community center, Threads, if you've not been out there, that's
Well, that's a good point.
very good.
Oh, I love threads.
All right, let's get along.
Just letting you know. No, it's on Blessing.
It's blessings in any location,
Yeah.
but you want to go on your own.
Threads?
Next year.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we got it?
I've got 'em, I think.
All right. All right, well done. So,
Well, it's not done yet.
Almost.
We'll see if we can organize it and
Yeah.
make it happen.
All right.
Maybe swing by for Dora's to see that it can hold 3,000.
No, 3,000. That's it. I've had events out there. I've had my.
It's not as ranchy as it used to. I mean, it's really fancy.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm party out. All right. Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
Future agenda items. Everybody look at us and
Ready.
what the world is going. All right.
Okay,
With
so
that,
December, I think I mentioned December 12th, but December 12th will be our next regular board meeting, and pretty light agenda right now. We are planning on bringing forward the next 2 years of academic calendar, so Dr. Jordan has worked with several committees, actually, but we're planning on bringing in a recommendation for the 24-25 as well as the 25-26 district calendar. We'll bring in a updated schematic design for Colonies North, since we've expanded that scope. And then we'll bring in a few items in and around athletic needs to include some scoreboards or digital video boards, golf practice facilities, and moving up a Sotomore baseball, softball district complex to include a cross-country course. So like I say, we'll have those items forthcoming. And then a few others, probably pretty heavy consent agenda, but we'll be meeting with the building committee, obviously before the 12th, and like I say, that's what we have in the works thus far.
Would this be a good opportunity?
Oh, yeah,
Or do I need to bring it up during the meeting?
no, it's a future agenda item.
Yeah, so this would be something that I'd.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the, I was talking to Bobby, and, being that we had celebrated Veterans Day, I know in the past, Leroy, and maybe you can help me out, we had talked about doing a design, or we did a design. I think Garza Bomberger did a design for a Veterans Memorial. Do we still have that in our?
We do.
Okay.
we did.
What has come of that? I know it was just a matter of, hey, we weren't.
There was discussion with various board members and the superintendent at the time of whether we ought to move forward with it and take away what was happening at the campuses. Because each campus has their own veterans, or I should say, the majority of the campuses. And so there was somewhat of a discussion of whether we should pay to have a centralized version or keep it at the campuses and not take away from the campus.
Right.
Can we do this with that? I don't know which committee that may fit. I think the conversation had changed a little bit on that regard. I don't know if it's a building committee or somewhere else, because there's a whole idea I think is worth discussing on that. Yeah.
So we had a design,
Yeah, I forgot about that. I remember that.
we had a design there at, right in the corner. The point Paul Taylor is, which was we scoured that whole area, and that was a very visible and impactful area that has a berm on it, so you can, do a wall and things of that nature. I know what Dr. Woods was very concerned about is, who do you honor?
Yeah.
That was the first question we asked. All military, and then how do you honor them? There are 3 examples we gave during that time of various school districts that have a wall of honor that has actually bricks or pavers that has the name. In this case, it would probably be a Northside person. And then there was concern about who's going to actually, logistically do all of that within the district.
Right.
So there were some questions that were still needed to be answered during that time.
Yeah,
And thank you, Leroy, for bringing that, because if anything, there has been some, I have been called about, possibly creating one, doing the memorial, two, possible creating a Northside Veterans Organization, kind of like the Edgewood, if you're familiar, right. And so they're wanting to create something here in Northsides, just like Edgewood, and have something to be able to honor the veterans. And I said, you know what, that's a great idea. Let's bring it up for discussion. And so, I'd like to maybe for us to consider that, or just re-engage that conversation again and see what we think about it.
I think, since we talked to actually found we do have some subgroups of veterans that are combining that I hadn't realized existed. What I was going to suggest, is that something that could be at the policy and government relations one as a discussion?
I think it would fit either that or building committee, but probably policy and government relations more so.
Because it's more along, not as much the memorial, it's the ideal of veterans committees, but we're really talking our veterans.
So we've got actually a pretty light policy committee meeting forthcoming. I say that.
It was light.
12:11.
One policy to discuss, and the internal audit policy now, and then so this would be a pretty light agenda.
Okay, so we'll do that as future agenda. Okay, and Trustee Saldana, do you have something?
I love the idea of doing a memorial at Gus where, we've talked about it in building committee. I don't know that we have to be specific and put Northside people. We're just honoring all veterans who come there, whether it's a grandparent that comes to watch their grandchild play or whatever. But I don't think that we should try to take it away from the schools, because those are really, really something that the schools like to do. It would just be a memorial that we are honoring our veterans, but for the services on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, whatever, I think that ought to be left to the campuses.
Oh, yeah, that's why, again, and that's a good point. That's why it stopped or did continue, because, the board and superintendent then had stated, agreed. Okay. Well, let's set policy out of that discussion.
More like just a high-level memorial.
Yeah.
That's nice.
All-inclusive. And I just wanted to add, I don't know that we always have to think of adults have to design that. We have some incredibly creative and gifted students that if we gave it to the students or even got input from our RTC, things like that, if we could make it really student-based, it was the kids at those ceremonies that really are impacted. And so, I know we had adult designs, but we've got kids who can do
Okay, good.
stuff. So put that on the policy. Right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it is. It is.
I've got
He's going to write it twice
Policy
now.
and kids voice.
And Trustee Freeman?
Yeah, just a question. I'm sorry. So if there's a group of veterans that wants to have a group, I'm not sure what the boards, they don't need our permission to form a group of, we have Northside parents, we have alumni parents, there's nothing to prevent a group of people from gathering in the name of Northside as veterans. So I know we talked about this physical place in policy, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a discussion of, it may end up that regard, but it's worth having a discussion because it would carry the Northside name, per se. The Northside, whatever, at least have the discussion, so it's partially driven by trustees also, but the other part is then that sort of, I hate to say legitimizes, or to have at least that discussion.
Right.
Is that needed or not, don't know, but at least have that discussion.
Okay, just clarification.
Okay? All right, good. So any other future agenda items? Okay, if not, we're going to go into closed meeting. I'll tell the board we just have just two, correct? How much time does the board need before? Anybody need a quick break or just go? All right. So the board of trustees beginning at, we'll say 9:28 p.m. will convene and closed meeting in accordance with Texas Government Code sections 551071, 551072, the others as listed. Discussion take place on the items that were, that are listed. Board of Trustees, beginning at 9:40, will convene an open meeting. Is there a motion to become for the board?
Mr. Blunt.
Oh,
No, I'd like to make a motion.
yeah, what?
My motion is to approve the administrative appointments as discussed in executive session.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, if not, it's been moved and second. We approve the administrative appointments as discussed in closed session. All those in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good. Motion carried. Thank you all.